What's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. If you're ever in Minnesota, you need legal help, look me up. I can probably pretend to help you or something. Hey, welcome. This is a long overdue video. And there are some reasons that it's long overdue. One, this is a hard thing to do. And it's hard to do because, and you guys have been, some of you, not all of you, some of you have been fans of Poppy or Mars Argo or Titanic Sinclair for a long time. And I am not really engaged in any of their content. So that makes this particularly difficult because you guys are going to have expectations about what your audience, or I guess what the court audience will know, and those expectations are going to reflect your knowledge and your experience and stuff like that. Whereas I have to come at this from a place where I am and where a judge and jury will likely be. Most of the people involved in this court will not have heard of Mars Argo or Poppy other than through this lawsuit and any research they may have done. If it's a jury, they're probably going to be pretty blind to any of those parties. So the challenge is to construct a better argument without having a massive background on the lore and without having enough time in my life to really delve back into all of that story. So I'm going to try and do a good job on that. But forgive me if I don't hit something you want. And I want to talk about that real quick. What I want to talk about is, as we go through this, I want to open the floor to you guys who might have more knowledge of this than I do. And I want to put out there that if you have a piece of evidence you think that I need to see, or you know, like two pieces of evidence to compare, I want you to, this sounds weird, but I want you to super chat that to me and I'll review it live. Okay. As we're going through other things, you can interrupt the show with a super chat of $5 or more, and I will go through, I'll stop whatever we're doing at the time, and we'll go through that particular piece of evidence, analyze it, see if it looks like something that's copyright infringement or not, and then we'll move on. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. The thing is, if people are going to watch this back, and once we start the full segment on Poppy, I'm going to record this separately from the live stream so that people can watch just that without this intro stuff, because I'm about to talk about some other things first. I like to give the live stream a little time to kick up, you know, to viewers or whatever who are more on my schedule, which is late. So, and I'm also going to pour a glass of whiskey and talk to you guys. So if you're here for the Mars Argo versus Poppy lawsuit and you have not participated in any of my previous live streams, they're a little different than the videos. They're a little more laid back. They can be a little chaotic and hectic. But so that's kind of a product of the medium of live streaming this stuff. So if you're, I'm also going to record the segment once we get really into more of the analysis and my theories and stuff. And so that'll be put up separately, assuming it's different enough from all of this. DOTV, that's a good question. I'll talk about that in just a second. Kat O'Connor sends... Oh, that's a glass of whiskey with an ice cube in it. It looks like, or it's iced tea. What am I going to drink tonight, guys? Okay, we'll go with, you know, oh, I'm going to go with this this very old Suntory Royal whiskey from Japan. I don't know when it was acquired. I know that when I got the bottle, it had a lot of dust on it. It was my grandfather's, and now it is mine, and he would want me to drink it. So hold on 1 second. That is delicious. And I'm sorry if you find whiskey drinking pretentious or my indulgence in it to be distracting or bothersome, but I really enjoy it. So, again, sorry about that, but that's how it goes. So, yes, the way I like to do these live streams, again, if you're not really in, if you haven't really been in them before, is I like to kind of get into a rhythm with all of this stuff and then tend to answer questions that come by Super Chat first. And then we'll have a question section at the end, or if there's like a logical break in the flow of everything, I may take questions that don't require a Super Chat. I don't require Super Chats to answer questions. I very much appreciate them, though. So if you want to toss a few dollars my way, your question or comment will be answered very quickly, and feel free to interrupt the stream as much as that. All right. So DOTV asks, can you tell us what's on the agenda so we don't super chat something you might have coming up? The main thing I'm really going to hit on is the main piece of evidence that I think is the best evidence for Mars Argo is the Doritos and Monster Energy drink video. So that's the big one that I'm gonna focus on. The other stuff I'm gonna focus on, we're gonna kind of rehash this complaint a little bit. I'm not gonna go through it line by line, but I do want to get into that complaint a little bit and talk about what's in there and kind of take a second look and see if I still think what was put on there is good or terrible. And then talk about how to restructure the complaint even. Because part of lawyering and prosecuting a case, and I don't mean as a prosecutor, I mean just the very act of going through a case, involves structuring your complaint effectively from a narrative perspective, telling an effective story to the other party. And I don't think that Mars Argo has told an effective story. I think her complaint is too long and she needs to make some edits and cuts. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. Did you take a read through the case I sent you? This is from KVLT1349. Is there anything worth mentioning there? What case was that? I remember you sending me a case, but I don't remember. And Jesse McGee, yes, I'm going to tell you what I know, which is very little. And to be honest, we don't know much about what happened because those types of proceedings are closed and the documents are not reviewable. But we're going to talk about the status of the case first in just a second. Oh, the CVS homeopathy suit. That's right. That's right. I have not gone through it yet, but I do want to. I took a glance at some of the stuff, but I haven't looked through the complaint. I did download it, so I'll be looking at that certainly coming up soon. Okay. Yeah, and Jesse Hula Hoops, if you tag me as Rekieta Law, it'll get my attention. But again, once we get going, I'm really going to hold off on the interruptions for anything other than super chats, mainly because if I engage the chat a lot, which I really like to do, and if I drink too much, I'll probably do it a lot. If I do that, people whine at me later for having a very chaotic re-listen if they're not able to attend these streams. So I don't want to do that too much. But I do want to go ahead and get into this. Let's see. Okay. So, first an update. And this is where we're going to start going in. I was going to start talking to you guys about my day and just how annoying it can be to be a lawyer and to have to deal with real issues and lens that through the court. Because I have had a very frustrating past 2 days trying to rescue a kid who has been kidnapped by someone who does not have the right to have him. And getting police and the courts to actually assist the one person who has the rights is really tough. And it's really, really irritating. And so the past 2 days have been frustrating. But I think I'll push that until we're done talking about the Poppy Mars Argo stuff. Because otherwise I'm just going to delay starting it too long. All right, Ben Cheevers. We'll see if we can keep the stream going long enough to cover your entire drive, buddy. Just kidding. Just kidding. Who gives a crap about some kid? It's funny how often the police seem to take that perspective. If that kid had drugs, man, they'd be all over him. All right, guys. Let's delve into the Poppy lawsuit thing that we've got here. Poppy versus, I guess, Brittany Alexander Sheets versus Corey Michael Mixter, Titanic Sinclair Productions, Mariah Rose, and I Am Poppy Incorporated. So we're at a weird spot in this case. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to pull up a reference piece here as we talk. You guys will not see it. Federal rules. Which one was this? Okay. Federal rules of civil procedure. Commencing an action. Summons. So here's the issue. In the current case, last I checked, which was earlier today, and I'm going to verify it right now. Service in this case had not been made upon anybody. So, service of the summons and complaint. So, the summons was issued on April 23rd, 2018, which means that Brittany Sheets, aka Mars Argo, petitioned the court to issue a summons. The summons gets created and given to Sheets, and then Sheets has the duty of tracking down all the parties to the lawsuit and getting a copy to them. There are various means of service that are acceptable, but it typically means handing them a copy of the lawsuit in person, mailing it to an address, hiring someone to do one of those things. Depends on who it is specifically. But there is a time limit for that. And I'm double checking. I believe the time limit is 90 days. Let's see. Time limit for service. So this is Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Rule 4, subsection M. Okay, the time limit for service. If a defendant is not served within 90 days after the complaint is filed, the court, on motion or on its own after notice to the plaintiff, must dismiss the action without prejudice against that defendant, or order that service be made within a specified time. But if the plaintiff shows good cause for the failure, the court must extend the time for service for an appropriate period. Subdivision M does not apply to service in a foreign country or to service of a notice under Rule 71. All right. So this complaint is dangerously close to getting dismissed. Actually, so the complaint was filed on April 17th, 2018. There has been no proof of service filed since then, which means that technically Mars Argo is beyond the Rule M service timeframe. And should someone provide notice to the court, that someone being one of the defendants, that they have not been served properly, the action needs to be dismissed, which means that Sheets would lose basically her filing fee, the time put in, and would have to start over, request a new summons, and file a new complaint. So, Sean, stop it. So procedurally, we've got a problem here. The summons were issued on the 23rd, so the court could technically give Ms. Sheets a couple more days. Monday would be the 23rd of July. Is that right? And that would be 90 days, I believe. That would be the tipping point of 90 days from that 23rd date. Although the actual filing of the complaint was on the 17th, I think. Let me see what this document is real quick. Very professional. Research on the fly. Okay, so there's just an order about the procedure coming up. That's not really important to this at all. She did not, so Jesse, to answer your question, we don't know if she served them. However, when you serve someone, you should immediately, as soon as you possibly can, file evidence of that service, which is usually some sort of verified affidavit sworn to by whoever served the process on them, that it was done in the following manner, and then you describe it. Like if it's service by mail, I sent this by first class mail on this date to this person. There you go. Or I hired so-and-so, or if it's a service company, that service company would fill out an affidavit. I handed this document physically to, what's her first name? Pereira. Poppy's first name. I can't think of it. Oh my gosh, Mariah Pereira. I handed it to her at this location personally, or I handed it to her representative or agent at this place. Mars Argo has to serve 4 different people in this lawsuit. She has to serve Corey Michael Mixter. She has to serve Titanic Sinclair Productions Incorporated, which is a California corporation. California corporations register a service receiver, or a process receiver, and you would serve that person. It's probably Titanic Sinclair, but who knows? If he has any sort of staff, one of those people might be there. And typically the California Secretary of State is going to have a list of all the businesses, and they're going to maintain that list and that way anyone can go and find how you serve process on a corporation. They also have to serve Mariah Rose Pereira, and they also have to serve I Am Poppy Incorporated. Again, so that's 4 different defendants. This is kind of the first, I don't want to say it's the first problem with this, because you gotta, I guess, file against all 4 of these defendants in case they try and shelter some of the assets in one of the corporations, or if they try and say, no, only this person did this and you didn't serve them. So it's a double-edged sword in this way. Hey, what's up, Ian Sterling? So Poppy is Poppy. Okay, I'll stop calling her Mariah then. But they have to sue all 4 of these people or entities. And if they don't do that, each one of them can be dismissed without prejudice. That means it can be refiled, but that adds cost, it adds time, and it'd be frustrating for Mars Argo. The question is, what is her goal in all of this? And I think I said that in the first video. What is her intention with this lawsuit? If her intention is to carry this lawsuit through on its copyright claims, then, that's one thing. If her intention is simply to use the publicity to, I guess, splinter fans from Poppy and reclaim maybe some of her old fans, she could certainly use this as a good springboard to do that. And if that's the case, she doesn't need to serve anybody, because she's gotten the media attention that she needs. She has gotten the fan bases, the respective fan bases, to hear her story and make their choices in a lot of cases. Many people have decided what side of the fence they're on. So it's hard to tell exactly what her plan is. I guess we're going to find out really soon if she produces any proof of service on any of the parties. But until then, we just have to go with what we've got. But okay, so no service has been made. We're really close to that 90-day time limit. I'm not going to do the math specifically, but let's just assume that 90-day time limit expires on Monday, being charitable. How has she not served them if they already had a hearing? Okay, that's the next thing. They haven't had a hearing in this case. That is the case where a hearing has occurred is a separate domestic relations case between Mars Argo and Corey Michael Mixter. Okay, Mars Argo has alleged that Corey Mixter has abused her in the past physically and is a threat to abusing her in the future, so she has requested a harassment restraining order against him. That case has had a couple hearings, sort of. The first hearing was scheduled a while back. That was continued to just recently. I think it was the 13th or something like that of July. And at that hearing, Mixter requested, it appears, excuse me. I am sorry, guys. I've had a long day. It appears that Mixter has requested for a continuance, so additional time to either consult an attorney or something. But he has requested that the temporary restraining order that's in place between them be reinstated, and that he would pursue, or they would have another continuance. And I think that is until August 22nd for the next hearing. It was on the 12th. Okay. So that next hearing is August 22nd. I think Sheets might have been waiting for the resolution of that restraining order, because that restraining order would be very good evidence for her in the domestic violence damages portion of this case. So who knows? Oh my gosh, I can't stop yawning. So who knows, again, what her intention is in all of this. But if it's to prosecute this, and that's the assumption I'm operating under, is that she is going through with this case, then it probably benefits her to wait for that restraining order to come out. So it's kind of a weird situation with the continuances, but there's not... The only harm that's happening to Mars Argo in the meanwhile is that she could lose out on some filing fees and be forced to refile. Why August 22nd? No idea. Might have just been the next available court date past 30 days. That's just how it goes sometimes. They are in Los Angeles County. I'm guessing Los Angeles County Domestic Violence Court is a very, very busy place. No hate to Los Angeles, but you got a lot of people, and a lot of people who like to do a lot of beatings. And that's not a joke. I'm not laughing at the beating part, so don't take it that way. It can be a very bad place. Big cities, man. Lots of people, and in tight spaces makes for that sort of issue. All right. So where we stand right now is that case is on hold until August 22nd. And this case is, I would wager, strategically being placed on hold until the result of that restraining order comes in. Monster Energy drink is disgusting. Clay died? F for Clay. Poor Clay. So what that leaves us with is still a lot of speculation on what's to come in this case. We still don't have an answer. We don't have any motions from the defendants because they haven't technically been served yet. Okay. How much do I get if you fine him? Oh. So anyway, let's start digging into this complaint, and I'm going to skip giant sections of it. Sort of. I'm not going to read through the giant sections of it, but I'm going to talk about them. So here's the introduction. here is, let's see, how long is this? All right, a page and a half, 2.5 pages, 3 pages. 3 pages and some change. Okay. We all know how you find hitting women funny, Nick, proven in YouTube comments. Yes. Yes. That is true. Kevin Cartilage. Hey, Nick, can't wait for Atlanta. Beers on me. All right, buddy. I'm holding you to it. I can't wait for Atlanta either. Very much looking forward to that. Jesse Hoops McGee, Hula Hoops McGee. I find so many things funny that are not appropriate to be found funny. But what I don't actually find funny is real violence against real people. Pretend violence, hyperbolic statements, sure. The image of the ridiculousness does make me chuckle, absolutely. But real violence against real people is something that I work very hard to fight against on a daily basis. So it's not something I actually do find funny in that case. Unless it's like comedy and no one's actually hurt. DFW Knights, man. That's a brutal comment, buddy. Let's see. Not that it matters about the lawsuit, but have you seen the leaked DMs between Mars and Titanic found when Titanic was hacked? I have not. And I have heard about them, but I have not really been looking into this outside of what's in this document. And some people might be critical of that or whatever, but the reason is I have this unique opportunity to analyze this as the type of person you're going to get analyzing this, which is a boomer judge at best. Boomer or older judge. Someone who was probably born before television. It's what you have to realize a lot of these guys are. Guys, I re-ask these questions at the end of the Poppy segment, please. And I'll be happy to answer them. Or ask them in a super chat. Either way. But let me kick into it. So I haven't looked at the DMs because that's kind of outside of this document. If they bring them up to the court, then I'll definitely give a little more look into them. The other thing I'm fighting against is, of course, my own time and just how much I have to do research into the deep aspects of each of these cases. And often I just don't, because I have my own caseload to deal with as well, plus a lot of children. So here's the introduction. The introduction is your chance to tell the story to the court before you really get into it. So let's skim it real quick. Let's skim it. Brittany Sheets is an actress and recording artist known by Mars Argo. She's from Saginaw, Michigan. She started dating Corey Mixter, and they moved together to Chicago and then LA. In addition to being the alter ego of Sheets, Mars Argo is the name of a musical project between Miss Sheets and Mr. Mixter. Mr. Mixter, who is known by his alter ego of Titanic Sinclair. In 2009, they began making music in their bedroom and releasing videos of their performances on their YouTube channel called Grocery Bag TV. This is immediately a problem, okay? Eric Blum, I've got some Suntory Japanese whiskey. Suntory Royal. This guy. Try and find it. I don't know where it can be found. All right. So immediately you've got a confusing aspect of this case. Is Mars Argo Brittany Sheets, or is Mars Argo the Mars Argo project? And they needed to not say that Mars Argo is the name of a musical project. They need to say the Mars Argo project. And they need to be very clear on the difference between the two of them. Because at this point, some old judge doesn't know now every time you mention Mars Argo if you're talking about plaintiff Brittany Sheets or if you're talking about the Mars Argo project. And that's going to be very important, I think, when they mention that there is an LLC that was created. Okay, so this is I don't like this. I don't like this. Okay, so anyway, they began making music in their bedroom and releasing videos of their performances on their YouTube channel called grocerybag.tv. All the content on the channel was self-produced and consisted of short films, music videos, and a show called Computer Show. The channel was active from 2009 to 2015. 92 videos released during that time. And then in 2012, Mars Argo began performing live stage shows and performing for audiences at venues across the country. Is that Brittany Sheets, or is that Mars Argo, the band, the project, the musical act? We don't know. Although Mars Argo was growing in popularity, Ms. Sheets was living a nightmare, and behind closed doors, she was enduring severe emotional and psychological abuse. In January 2014, after confronting... See, this is a conflict of the story. And I'm skipping this here because here's what you've got. Your complaints are for, first, copyright infringement, 2, common law right of publicity, 3, unfair business laws, which will be either of these being violated would be a violation of the business laws, and then 4, domestic violence. But look at how quickly we get to domestic violence in the introduction. Okay? Paragraph 6, we're there. So, harass, threaten, stalk. Abusive behavior, but the brand is gaining notoriety. Abuse becomes too much, and so she stopped making new content. She leaves Los Angeles because of the threats and harassment. He's actively harassing Sheets, and then he calculatedly transformed another woman, Mariah Rose. So this is nitpicky, okay? But if you're looking when you're telling this story, it should be congruent with the causes of action, in my opinion. How you lay out the narrative and then how you structure the remainder of the complaint following your narrative introduction is going to help a judge and jury put together the idea of the story in their head and start following this timeline. They start with the domestic violence. Like they're talking about the relationship here. They're not talking about who's creative, whose energy is going into the creativity of the project, who's writing the music, who's framing the art, who's doing all of the creation is not covered in this first page. This first page is getting to domestic abuse and then describing domestic abuse. Okay? That is bad form, and this stuff shouldn't matter, but your reader, your audience, and lawyers should know this. And actually, I worked on a project with one of my professors while in law school because they were out on a goal to teach this. And me being a English literature and creative writing major prior to being in law school, it caught my attention that they were trying to teach narrative story to law students because they don't talk about any of this stuff in law school. But your audience is a judge or a jury or whoever is reviewing, a judge or a clerk, really, and that's a person. And so helping them frame the story in their head is very, very important in subtle ways, and just as important as having all of your facts down. So we have a disconnect immediately between how they're laying out the complaint with their causes of action, and then they have the introduction happening in the opposite order, but then they're going to switch back for the next section, and that's a problem. That's a problem. So it's not a legal problem for them. It's a practical problem. Emily says it kind of sounds like Brittany is trying to use the domestic violence claims to bolster her other claims since the statute of limitations has run out on the domestic violence claims. They're not admitting that the statute has run out, but maybe that is the case. That could be. And I think what they should just do is frame the domestic violence issue first, if you want to do it that way. But it might be better, and how I would frame it, I actually like their layout of their cause of action here. Copyright infringement, common law right of publicity is that's like a bastardized copyright infringement claim, kind of a fallback. I think that copyright claim is their biggest claim, And they should really start with that. You know, these first couple paragraphs are okay, but immediately starting on paragraph 4, they should be talking about how Brittany Sheets is the creative driving force behind most of this. While she and Titanic do collaborate on stuff, she's the ideas person. They need to frame her as the person generating the copywritten content, or copyrighted content. Okay, she needs to be the one composing lyrics to songs, writing melodies to songs, composing the musical composition. She needs to be the one creating the look, the aesthetic that she's going to claim is stolen. She needs to start setting that out from the onset. Instead, she focuses, or her lawyers focus, on her feelings first. Her feelings are hurt. Her person is hurt. She's hurt by the relationship breaking down. She's been replaced. Like, think of how that, as the primary, like the first thing you encounter in this complaint, think of what that does on a subconscious level to the reader. What is this case about? Is this case really about copyright infringement? Or is this person mad that they had a bad breakup, they were replaced by someone similar, and maybe this guy was mean to them and they think it was abuse? What's it look like? What's the court going to focus on? Usually the first thing, because that's going to be stuck in their mind the entire time reading it. I would immediately have framed this introduction in the opposite way. I would have started talking about the creative process long before I got to the breakdown of their relationship. So that's me. And again, this is all going to be, this is preference among lawyers, but just as a consumer of literature and a terrible creator of literature, that's what I would do. So anyway, next, let's get back to this. So we're in 6. January 2014, confronting Mixter about his recent recurrent infidelity. She ends the relationship, does all these things. So then she was hesitant to end their professional association. 2015, she leaves. I know I'm going back here, but 2015, she leaves Los Angeles to protect herself. Then they go back to 2014. So this is a year before she leaves. He's transforming Mariah Pereira into that Poppy, according to her, into a Mars Argo knockoff. So then next, we've got, although Poppy was a natural brunette, she becomes platinum blonde. And in character as Poppy, started to alter her voice to be a pitch higher to mimic Mars Argo's distinctive speaking voice. Okay, but again, stream's tanking. I'm gonna wait till I got the bitrate back up. All right, Eric Blum. I'm not a big beer drinker. I'll try whatever, but I haven't found too much that I like so far. Okay, so then, they go into Poppy starting to adopt the look, but the way she's doing it here, it looks less like it's a complaint about copyright infringement, even as far as paragraph 11, and more that it's a complaint of she's been replaced. That's just how it reads. I know that's not what they're trying to say, and that's kind of the problem. So in paragraph 12, Mixter and Pereira began to produce short segments on a YouTube channel that were set against substantially similar backdrops, which is just white. I want to point that out. For the most part, they're like solid, bright colors or pastels or whites. But anyway, deliberately similar format to the Mars Argo project. Now, let me talk about, again, why this is important. And I'm going to hammer on this for a while because I think this is really crucial to drafting a better complaint. It's a substantially similar backdrop and a deliberately similar format to the Mars Argo project. So what? Like, honestly, at this point, based on what we've read up until paragraph 12, so what? This thing only matters if you take the idea that Brittany Sheets is the creative force behind the look of the Mars Argo project. Because right now, it's either a collaborative effort or potentially that Titanic Sinclair is the visionary behind the aesthetic. We don't know. It's ambiguous. And so with that ambiguity, the reader's going to looks at this and says, okay, so it's similar backdrops. I mean, I guess, in deliberately similar fashion. Okay, so they're similar. That's not copyright infringement at this point. And that's a problem because they should be solidifying that Mars Argo is a creative force, that she has ownership of this. No, let me clarify. They should solidify that Brittany Sheets is the creative force, that she has ownership, that she is the creator of the pair, because that's what she kind of gets to later in the thing. Okay. So on to paragraph 13, November 2014 to the present through the Poppy Project, Mr. Mixter and Mr. Pereira as Poppy deliberately copied Mars Argo's identity, likeness, expression of ideas, sound, style, and aesthetic in YouTube segments. But again, is this Brittany Sheets' identity? Is Mars Argo the band? Is it Mars Argo Project? Who is Mars Argo here? What are they copying? What was created that was copied? And I've talked about this before, and some people have kind of challenged me in the comments, talking about Bette Midler and the other singer. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was not successful. Bette Midler was successful in her lawsuit. They've talked about these sorts of things about copying a likeness or a persona or whatever. That's a different thing than a copyright claim. That's important. But if Mars Argo's identity is a created piece of expression, if this is the Mars Argo character being created, there's a chance that they can be copying the character, and that character can be copyrighted by Brittany Sheets. Expression of ideas is not really copyrightable. Sound, iffy. Style, aesthetic, these things are really, those are hard to show. So again, I'm not liking this. I'm thinking they need to start talking about not just the idea, sound, style, and aesthetic. And I know this is the intro, okay? But I think they really need to be focused on, they need to get rid of this language. All of these little lists. Lawyers love lists of things to show over and over again where we violated. But sometimes it's important to say they deliberately copied Brittany Sheets' creative force in creating the Mars Argo character and furthering the Mars Argo project. That type of thing has much more impact than saying likeness, expression of ideas, sound, style, and aesthetic. This almost looks like a legal argument inside of an introduction, and that's not what you're after at this point. Kid Corollas, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So these actions constitute copyright infringement. This is a legal conclusion, and this is a pointless sentence. And this shouldn't be in the introduction, in my opinion. So, moreover, by combining that infringement with a sinister campaign of harassment, see, now we kind of circle back to the harassment, and I think it would have been great had they laid out the copyright and the creativity stealing first, and then what they had done is saying, in addition to this, Miss Sheets has undergone severe physical, psychological, trauma due to Titanic Sinclair's ongoing harassment and intimidations and threats and violence. I think it's better as saying, I'm after the fact that my art has been compromised. Also, this has been happening, and that's not okay. I think that's where you've said before you can't own a persona. Would they have been better off calling her a character? Yeah, I think so. Personally, I think her being a created character, clearly a created character, is very, very important. And Kid Carolus mentioned BuzzFeed, but I'm going to liken that to Gawker. And if you someday I'll have to go through the transcripts from the Hulk Hogan versus Gawker case, but Hulk Hogan, well, Terry, whatever his name is, the actor who plays Hulk Hogan, gets on the witness stand, and I think some of the testimony was basically around the size of his, we'll say, his male reproductive organ. And they said, do you have a 10-inch penis? And he says, no, but Hulk Hogan does. Okay. And I know it's this really weird section of the examination or cross-exam of Hulk Hogan, but it shows this distinction between the person and the character that's created that is so much so that even physical aspects of the character that are empirically checkable. I mean, someone could drop Hulk Hogan's pants and everybody would know. That type of thing, Terry Bollea, thank you, Andrew Gluck, that it was important to the Hulk Hogan character to have this factor of his physique be in there. But it played a part in the case of them releasing a sex tape because it messed with the character's identity in some sort of ways. I think it's important that Hulk Hogan is not a persona of Terry Bollea. Hulk Hogan is a character created by and owned by Terry Bollea. I don't actually know if he owns Hulk Hogan or if one of the wrestling organizations does, but that character's ownership is important, and who created the character and the aspects of that character are important. Personas are facets of ourselves that we put forward for an audience. I have a YouTube persona. I act a certain way that I think, and I'm probably wrong, will be appealing to people who are watching these videos. That's a part of who I am. It's not a character that I put on, but it's a facet of my identity. If Mars Argo is a facet of Brittany Sheets' identity, it's not created, it can't be copyrighted, and therefore Poppy's mimicry of it can't be copyright infringement. So that's kind of a long exposition. That's kind of a long exposition on that, but I think it's a very important question. I think they've really failed to establish that Mars Argo, the character, is a character, and every aspect of that character is art created by Brittany Sheets. Now, her fans, some of you guys, are going to know that. You're going to know and understand that. But it's not in the document, and I don't think it comes through. And an outsider looking in on this, especially one who doesn't care about what's on YouTube, is going to look at this and say, so she kind of copied things that you do. I mean, that's how people do society, is they copy things that other people do. Okay, so let's go on. Like many women, Sheets had previously been afraid to come forward with her story. Again, what are we focused on in this introduction? What are we focused on in this lawsuit? This is not helping her copyright claims. She continues to fear for her own safety. The only way to gain freedom is to move forward both professionally and personally, is to hold him and his enablers accountable and seek protection from the court. Again, we're talking 17 paragraphs and what? One and a half, two and a half. We've got 2.5 paragraphs out of 17 that focus on the creative aspect and the copyright. So next, this complaint seeks damages from Mixer for personal abuse. Again, that's first. First is personal abuse from his company in copying the identity likeness of his work and the blatant and willful infringement of Mars Argo's copyright. Abuse first, copyright second. But in the order of the complaint, it's the opposite. In addition, given Mr. Mixer's past history of abuse, Ms. Sheets is simultaneously seeking a domestic violence restraining order against Mr. Mixer in a state court. This is problematic for me. So Jesse Hula Hoops McGee, thank you very much for the super chat. Brittany created the Mars Argo character almost identically to a modern Shirley Temple. I have photographic comparison proof. Do you? Do you have a way to send that to me? If you have a way to send that to me, I'll bring it up on the stream as a thank you for the super chat, and we can talk about it specifically because that is a very important thing. Kid Corollas, possibly Mars Argo is doing that. Twitter. Hold on. Pulling up that Twitter. You're just trying to slide into my DMs. Just kidding. That's a joke. I just wanted to say slide into my DMs. Where on Twitter am I looking? Oh, guys. My guy Larry. While we wait, let me just go ahead and pull this up on the stream. If you don't, if you haven't ever checked out that Larry show, he's a good guy. Let me see here. Is this it? Yeah, here we go. Look at this. So Larry tossed that to me just a little bit ago. Uh-oh. No, the stream's still up. Sorry about that. Okay, let me see. So, says, forget Kavanaugh, Nick Rekieta for SCOTUS, pass it on, Nick Rekieta. I agree, Larry. Me for SCOTUS. Okay. Did someone say smack? DFW, they must have because I'm laughing. So, all right, just waiting for that message to come forward. Oh, there it is. There it is. Except. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is actually well, here, let me snip it because I promised to. Here we go. That show up? Yeah. So this is actually put down later in the complaint. And this is another problem that I'm going to talk about. I'm glad you brought up Shirley Temple. I hadn't thought that far back. But this is another problem that I'm going to talk about, and I've talked about it before, about whether or not her work is derivative or not. Yeah, so this is, oh, here, let's move this a little bit. So that is Mars Argo. And is there a follow-up with the Shirley Temple image? There we go. That's what I was looking for. So let me see if I can get all these real quick. Okay, does that come through here? Let's see. Whoa! All right, so there you can see all three of the images pretty well. Let's see. I keep losing my chat window, guys. Okay. So, yeah, here in the idea is going to be focused on obviously not her her outfit. I have a pen tool. Her outfit is clearly different from Shirley Temple because they're separated by, quite a few years here. But the expression on her face, I just like circling things, is it looks to be, kind of in the same vein. You've got a very similar chair here in the background. Obviously, this is a black and white photo, so we don't know, but picking that old style up. Differences, of course, hat, some bling, whatever you want to call these little bracelet things. She doesn't have curly hair. But this is interesting because, and we can skip ahead to, let me move this to the back. Okay. Mars doesn't tap dance. DOTV, hold on. Let me tell you why this is an interesting point. At face value, I will grant you specifically that Mars Argo copying Shirley Temple in that image is a stretch. However, let me direct you to... where is it? Right down here. Here it is. Right? Now look. Mars Argo has utilized Poppy sitting in this. Now, I would argue, personally, let me see if I can get them all on... I can get them all here at the same time. Gotta move. I'm obscured for a little bit here, but that's okay. Oh, wait. No, I don't have to be because we have that. I would argue that the Argo aesthetic is more similar to this Shirley Temple picture here, at least with the chair and stuff like that being closer resemblance than the Poppy picture is. What's interesting is that Poppy's outfit is closer to Shirley Temple's outfit than Mars Argo's. The chair in Mars Argo's is closer to Shirley Temple's. But the reason that this is interesting is not because at face value, these three images, these that are moving, you know, they don't really show a specific copy. But when you put it against what they're claiming is copyright, it's internally inconsistent. And that's a problem because, first of all, I think that... here, let me put that back in the back. First of all, I have a big problem with saying that this is copyright. Because taking a picture of someone sitting in a chair, even an old style chair, it's really hard to claim that that's copyright infringement. They don't look anything alike. Their expressions are different. I almost feel like they could have... If these are just photos, maybe that's a problem. But if they're video snippets, they probably could have found a more comparable expression and pose, but maybe not. I'll get back to that super chat. But yeah, the problem with copyright infringement of anything is if the person who's claiming the infringement has occurred has if they have taken from someone else, then they're not the copyright holder of that image. Now, again, I think that saying that Mars Argo versus Shirley Temple is a stretch. Absolutely. But in the context of her using that exact same picture against this picture of Poppy, I think it kind of looks like a comparison that could be made. And that's just a bad... That's just a bad compare. This I think is just bad evidence personally. Like from the get-go, I've thought that's a bad example. But we're not there yet. So I'm going to go back to where we were and get back to talking through this intro section. And then we're going to skip some chunks of that intro section. Or skip some chunks of the document after that. All right. So... Super chat from Steven Severin. Rackets confirms Hulk Hogan has a 10-inch penis. There you go. So let's see. All right. Back to it. So thank you for the digression. Happy to interrupt if anybody has any more comparisons and things like that they want me to go through or think I'm missing something. Super chat's a great way to do that, and we'll spend a little time on it. Okay, so we're back to the harassment, domestic violence restraining order. Let's see. And additionally, Sheets seeks damages from Pereira for being a knowing accomplice to his unlawful actions and deliberately copying, stealing, and appropriating the identity, style, aesthetic, likeness, blah, 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 in her own work as Poppy. So this is weird. Being an accomplice and then in her own work, that just doesn't agree. But look at that. Out of 20 paragraphs, 3.5 are dedicated to something around the creativity of Mars Argo being copied. That means that 16.5, if math hasn't failed me, are about the relationship and the abuse and harassment. That is an unbalanced introduction if your main thing is a copyright claim. And I know that the domestic violence allegation is similar in there, but it's listed last in the thing. And there are reasons that it's listed last. The copyright's the big money cow, we'll say. So that's where you want to focus your energy. The copyright is going to matter the most. But let's take another poke. Let's take another poke at the intro from a narrative standpoint. If the narrative is that Titanic Sinclair is a domineering, harassing, abusive person, it diminishes the idea that Sheets is the creative force behind the group, because this is not based on reality. I'm not claiming that this is so. This is a perception that I get from reading about domineering, controlling people like Titanic Sinclair being involved in a project like this. I have a hard time thinking he would say he would have her be the creative force while being this very dominant and intimidating personality. Those people tend to want to have their ideas pushed forward. So it tips on the scales a little bit and says maybe Titanic Sinclair has a lot to do with the images that come out, the songs that come out. I don't know, but that's a problem with the narrative. And that's a big complaint I have with the introduction, is that the narrative is inconsistent. It seems to be running against the aims of the case. Ryan English. I don't know. I don't know if you'll hate it or not. White dress curtsy pic I sent. Okay, let me pull that up real quick. Oh, sure. So I'll go through this one real quick too. I'll just bring this up on screen so you guys can see it. And then let me pull it up in the document here. So here, this is a good one. So this is Mars Argo doing a curtsy in a white dress. She accuses Poppy of doing a curtsy in a white dress and that's a copy. Again, this is a problematic comparison for me just from the onset. Hold on, Ryan English. From the onset, because these two dresses look nothing alike to me. And the backgrounds are significantly different. There's an item in the foreground here. The framing of the shot is entirely different. Mars Argo is not fully in frame. At the top and the bottom, she leaves the frame. So there's different. Poppy's got knees in the picture. Very haram. Not okay. But anyway, the point that Jesse Hula Hoops McGee is bringing up, and I think this is a pretty good one, is that if I bring this to the front, we see that we've got another Shirley Temple picture here, and I think you can see the problem with suggesting that Poppy has copied Mars Argo here, because if Poppy has copied Mars Argo, then we have to admit that it looks like Mars Argo has copied Shirley Temple in this picture. So again, this is one instance. Now, any instance of copyright infringement has the potential to be a claim. So dismissing one or two out of them isn't the whole thing, but these are the problems I was talking about with the overall aesthetic, is that Mars Argo and her lawyers specifically needed to, from the start, let me move this back to the back again. From the start of this case, needed to assert that Mars Argo, Brittany Sheets specifically, Brittany Sheets had constructed a character, had constructed an image, had constructed all of these things, and really laid into that, and then talked about how those things were being taken from her specifically. And so far they haven't done, they didn't do a job of that at all in the introduction. Are her lawyers incompetent? Unlikely. No, it's not problematic that they don't have dates necessarily, unless Poppy were to argue the opposite. But okay, Ryan, yeah, some of the music's okay. I'm gonna say it, absolutely. Lorraine says Poppy invented tap dancing, and you can read all about it at the Poppy Church. Okay, so the parties. Let me see. Here's another problem with the narrative. Okay, so I skipped the jurisdiction because that's not really important here. Parties. Look at how they're described, and think back on that thing I talked about with Titanic Sinclair being a domineering force and maybe not wanting other people's ideas to be taking the limelight. Parties. Plaintiff in this action is Brittany Alexandria Sheets, an individual who is now and at various relevant times was a resident of Los Angeles. Now listen to how she describes Titanic Sinclair. Plaintiff is informed and believes that Mr. Mixter is and was at all relevant times an individual and resident of the County of Los Angeles, State of California. That's important for jurisdiction and venue. Defendant Corey Mixter goes by the professional name of Titanic Sinclair. Notice she doesn't say that Brittany Sheets is the character or goes by the character of Mars Argo or the professional name. She says, and describes himself on his website, TitanicSinclairBandcamp.com, as a LA-based audio and visual artist, and on his website as a director-writer living in LA. She had an opportunity to again distinguish herself as a creative force for Mars Argo and dropped it. And then lays out Corey Mixter as a person whose profession it is to create. This is an inconsistency in how you're approaching the case. They certainly probably want to talk about Corey Mixter identifying himself as a creator, but they really need to focus on the fact that Brittany Sheets is a creator who created the Mars Argo character, developed the Mars Argo character, performed as the Mars Argo character, and is the owner of the Mars Argo character. She should have done that. Even here in the party section, you can make arguments without making arguments, and they should have done it. Can you say Poppy did nothing wrong? Max, I said it, but if you want me to say it again, pal, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. Okay, so then Titanic Sinclair Productions is an entertainment service. Oh, excuse me. Defendant Mariah Rose. So even Mariah Pereira gets her professional name Poppy thrown in. Why doesn't Sheets identify herself professionally as Mars Argo? Very weird. Okay. Jason Benaim. Curtsy in a white dress could be explained by Titanic just being into that. You ever date a girl who looked like your ex-girl? Poppy and Argo going to be looking at each other in court like Spock and Evil Spot. Thanks, you. Yeah, Jason, and I'm actually, that's a little bit different twist on an upcoming segment of this show, and where Mars Argo needed to be careful, and I think that she wasn't careful, and how I would have changed it. Again, I led off this talking about how she needs big-time edits in the story of her case. And I think that's very, very important. What you just tapped on, I think, is very, very important. And I'm getting there. Okay. Background. Bad subheading. Miss Sheets and Mr. Mixter began Mars Argo in 2009 and created original content for Mars Argo until 2014. That's a collaborative effort. Even if that's true, this point, you gotta make Titanic Sinclair force the argument that he was also the creator or the primary creator. If Sheets believes that she owns Mars Argo, and I genuinely believe that she believes that she owns the Mars Argo character, okay? I am taking her 100% at her assertion that it is her creation. If she genuinely believes that line in bold, the first part of the background. So we get our intro narrative, we get introduced to the parties, we get a legal argument on jurisdiction, and then we're into the background. And the first thing you see undermines the case that she's the sole creator or that she is the owner of the Mars Argo character. So, not strong. Not strong. So, Miss Sheets began creating content for Mars Argo in 2009 and continued through 2014. That's your intro. That's your intro. So, here we go. Mars Argo is the alter ego. No, is the character created by. Character created by singer, actress, YouTube artist, and personality Brittany Sheets. Brittany Sheets isn't the personality. Brittany Sheets is a person. Mars Argo is a personality or created character. I would focus on created character. Hammer in the fact that Brittany Sheets created Mars Argo. If she did, and if she's claiming a copyright on behalf of herself, and this is important too, because as we get through the background, again, I'm tangenting a lot, and I'm really going to try and not just go through everything in this document again, because we've done this. But I'm being critical here for a very important reason. She's asserting that she is the owner. Brittany Sheets has brought this action. She did not bring it on behalf of the Mars Argo Project, LLC or whatever that we'll talk about later, that was created between her, Sinclair, and her dad. That would be a different lawsuit, a very, very different lawsuit, and might have been a better lawsuit in all honesty. But, so she starts off, is the alter ego? No, is a created character. Every single opportunity I would get in this complaint to write that she is the created character, I would say she's a created character. Remind the court who owns it. Remind the court who is who. Okay, next. Is also the name of a musical project between Miss Sheets and Corey Mixter, who is known by his alter ego Titanic Sinclair. This is so confusing, and I know it's a reality of the case, but I don't know. Miss Sheets and Mr. Mixter began dating in 2008, making music in their bedroom, blah, blah, blah. Throughout this time, Miss Sheets created, developed, participated in, and contributed to Mars Argo content, scripts, directing, lighting, framing, filming. So here we're at Mars Argo, not the character, but the project, the musical group. So she developed, participated in, and contributed to. No. Miss Sheets created, developed, wrote, not participated in, not contributed to. That's giving ownership to someone else. I mean, not really, but mentally. Directing, lighting, framing, filming, editing. This is, again, I told you lawyers like to make lists, but sometimes it's better to cut the list and just hammer it out. Miss Sheets created, developed, and built Mars Argo the character. Created the Mars Argo character, and then she could say she participated and contributed to the Mars Argo project. Sure. Created the character, including wardrobe, photography, overall aesthetic, voice, quirks, anything that is put on and created. I created. It was me creating content. It's so important, and it's just not in this at all, and it drives me nuts. That's why I keep focusing on it. It's worded that way to be truthful. Yeah, kind of, but it's not at the same time. Unless it is. But if it is, she doesn't have a case, and that's a problem for her. She doesn't have this case, I should say. Her photography was largely responsible for the look of Mars Argo. This is a weird sentence. And Mr. Mixter continues to appropriate that work to this day. How do you appropriate photography? Like, that's... someone help me out. This is a concept that's an ongoing problem through this case, and this is something I would change dramatically if I was writing this case. Ms. Sheets created the look of Mars Argo and memorialized it through photography, framing the shots, choosing the wardrobe, directing the character's actions, poses, emotions, aesthetic. That's how you've got to phrase this. Mrs. Sheets created the image that you see when you look at Mars Argo. Not her photography. This is so passive. No. Be an active writer on this type of stuff. Hey, I'm Jameson from St. Cloud, Minnesota. I love that poppy stuff. Hey, shout out to you, Jameson in St. Cloud. I was just up there the other day. Had some Fuji for dinner with the family. Good stuff. Good stuff, buddy. Okay, so in addition to her creative contributions throughout their personal and professional relationship, Mr. Mixer was essentially insolvent, relying on constant financial support from Miss Sheets and her family. Okay, but this is a weird sentence, or a weird intro to this sentence. In addition to her creative contributions sounds like she doesn't own it, but she's contributing to it. She's got to take it. They moved to Los Angeles, auditioned new members for their band to produce, perform live shows in addition to producing internet content. They shared an apartment. Okay. Again, this is detracting from the ownership. What's interesting is that, so the Mars Argo project is talked about here, but it's not really an element of the claims. The claims revolve around the character, right? The character Mars Argo and the character Poppy. The Mars Argo project is not important to any of this, in my opinion. The musical project, no. If you're focused on owning the character, creating the look, feel, aesthetic, all of that of the character, focus on the character, ditch the project altogether. Not important for the judge to know that there's a project. If Mixter brings it up or if Poppy brings it up, well, there's also a Mars Argo project. Yes, Your Honor, there is, but that's not really relevant to this case because we're talking about the character Mars Argo that was created by Miss Sheets. Other people collectively own the overall project. Miss Sheets created and owns the character of Mars Argo within the Mars Argo project. You've got to focus on what's important. And I don't think the project is important at all to this case. Let's see. Okay. They moved to Los Angeles. Oh, yeah. They shared an apartment. Around this time, they received a loan from the father. Like what? Okay, and Mixter formed the Mars Argo LLC. Okay, this is a problem. All right. This should not be in this suit. If you ask me, in my very humble opinion. Talk to you later, Severage. Michael Alroy, you might think it's art, but I think if you knew anything about Spertus Landis and Umhofer LLP, you'd know that that's the most expensive art you can they could have afforded. So anyway, and maybe it is. Maybe it is. Okay, so I would have cut this whole thing because this isn't relevant to the ownership of the Mars Argo character. Because it says here, Mars Argo LLC was also incorporated in Los Angeles. The purpose of the LLC was to develop the Mars Argo brand to generate revenue from a variety of sources, including royalties, retail sales, licensing revenues, and appearance fees. Well, that really complicates who owns what at this point. Because if they're pulling in royalties, that means they either have licenses granted by the owners to the LLC or the LLC owns the content. I highly doubt they have an extremely structured operating agreement that fully discloses the ownership of each of these things. I doubt they wrote licensing contracts from Brittany Sheets to Mars Argo LLC, or from Titanic Sinclair to Mars Argo LLC, or from the the Mars Argo project to the LLC. I doubt that any of these things exist. So the question becomes, who owns this thing? And I think the presumption is if that the LLC is pulling royalties and selling merchandise, therefore using derivative works of the copyrighted material, then what you're going to run into is a judge or the opposing counsel saying, well, you know what? We think maybe the Mars Argo LLC should be bringing this case. And if that's the case, Titanic Sinclair is an owner of it and therefore entitled to any of the things that he owns in it, and blah, 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 blah. We also don't ever know what happened to this LLC. Was it dissolved? What became of it? Is it just sitting out there without documents filed? Does it still own rights to things? These are complicated questions. LLC should be left out. It should be left out. Brittany Sheets owns Mars Argo should be the exact theme of this entire lawsuit, as long as it's true. And true is a weird word in these lawsuits. Because remember, and when I say it's a weird word in these lawsuits, I don't mean that you need to be untruthful. But the truth, this complaint is sworn. Think of it as a sworn statement from Brittany Sheets. Her belief under oath about what is true. If she thinks that she owns Mars Argo, and again, I genuinely think she does think that, then this LLC needs to be gone. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Or it should be mentioned in passing. Mars Argo LLC was created by Miss Sheets, Mr. Mixter, and Don Sheets. It no longer exists. We licensed our individual creative works to the LLC for the purpose of marketing and then distributed the assets according to the operating agreement. Something like that, fine, I guess. Make it ancillary. Tell the judge that this thing exists but doesn't matter. They don't do that here. They just leave a big giant question mark. I don't like it. I don't like it. So Sunny D says Titanic knows that Mars owns Mars Argo LLC, and that's why he didn't put the music on Spotify and begged her to put it on Spotify. I don't know that from this complaint, I don't know that Mars Argo owns the Mars Argo LLC. In fact, from this complaint, she owns the exact same amount. Brittany Sheets owns the exact same amount as Titanic Sinclair, and Don Sheets is a majority owner. What happened after that? We don't know. Big problem. Big problem. But if they bring up Mars Argo LLC, and Mars Argo LLC owns the things that you say they own, like the music on Spotify and all that stuff, if Mars Argo LLC owns it and not just owns a license to reproduce it, then this case is brought by the wrong party. and Mars Argo LLC should be bringing this case, not Brittany Sheets. I'm taking Brittany Sheets at her word that she owns Poppy when I'm doing this analysis. She needs to own, or not own Poppy, that she owns Mars Argo. Sorry. She needs to own it in every opportunity. She needs to own it. Okay. Although the band Mars Argo grew in popularity, severe emotional and psychological abuse. Again, we're getting back into the abuse, which just raises a question of where's the focus? Now we're back into more abuse. He created the sense that she was running out of time. And then we have a review of the song, shows that many lyrics are related to the controlling nature of the relationship. I mean, maybe, but that doesn't mean much of anything to the case. Deliberately sought to shatter her self-confidence, so she would not pursue any individual creative opportunities. Maybe, but again, we're back to the abuse, and we've lost focus on the script of the copyright at this point. He would belittle opportunities to collaborate outside. And so then he would advise her on how to respond to the opportunity, or even take it upon himself to draft a response for her to turn down the project. Now, framed with the idea that she is a battered and controlled woman in an abusive relationship, sure, this looks bad. Framed in the idea that she and Titanic Sinclair are co-owners, co-equal owners, and probably the operating managers of an LLC that manages their interests, then this is just business. And again, that's part of the reason why the bringing in the LLC's ownership and the LLC's existence causes problems rather than remedies problems. It leaves big questions, and without the answers to those questions in this document, it shouldn't be there. Because if they're co-equal owners and presumably co-equal managers of the Mars Argo project, then absolutely having your partner advise you on how to respond, or taking the opportunity to respond for you on your behalf as a co-equal owner, is not out of the normal. Not at all. That's how business is done. The abuse does merit legal action if it happened. And we're getting to that. I'm not trying to downplay the abuse here. I'm saying that the narrative that they're laying out needs to be focused in the order of importance for them, and it's not. When you're telling the story of this whole thing, is the abuse what Sheets wants to focus on? If it is, tell the abuse story and then tell the copyright story. But it looks like the copyright is what she wants to focus on, and that needs to come first. It just should. It should come first, and the abuse should come as a second story, driving the hammer home, not interwoven through here, because it causes them to lose focus. It takes the reader's attention away from what's important and puts it on a different issue that is not important yet, but will become important later. So, all right. And guys, when I talk about like battered and controlled and all that stuff, like, don't assume that I'm taking sides. I don't know what happened. I'm just going with the narrative that's presented and how I would be representing Mars Argo if I were doing this. Okay, so then we've got this thing. They broke out of their romantic relationship. He moved out of the apartment. They continued to work together professionally. They recently shot the music video for Single Using You with a Grammy Award nominee for Producer of the Year, and we're in the process of editing the video. Okay. Shortly thereafter, in February 2014, Mars Argo released Delete Your Facebook on grocerybag.tv. They use this later. This is a bad piece of evidence. It's a very bad piece of evidence. I don't know why they think that the titles matching matters. I reviewed both videos. That's not copyright infringement. It's not even close. It's not even a question that those two videos have nothing to do with each other. And I think it's very bad that they put them together in this lawsuit. Okay. During this time, the band Mars Argo continued to gain a cult following. Performing shows. Great. Sheets attempted to maintain a working relationship, found it increasingly difficult. Fine. You know, good. Get out of the working relationship then. This is how bands break up. Not just male and female relationships. This is how working relationships break up. They canceled their first show at Belly of the Beast Blowout Festival. Miss Sheets put the band on hiatus from rehearsals and performances. See, this is interesting because that looks like Miss Sheets has control over the band rather than the LLC. And the way she frames it here is that she has the authority to do this. I mean, that's the inference. I don't know. It might just be carelessly written. But if she has the authority over the band's activity, and I said this at the beginning, if she created the Mars Argo character, she needs to focus on that. If she's the creator of the project, then she needs to focus on that. And this is a weird thing. She should say I would say she should put the Mars Argo character on hiatus, forcing the band to go on hiatus. Remind the court at the end of your intro or at the end of this background that you do own the character still. I think that's a good thing. All right. Mixter began frequently breaking into her gated apartment building. Again, we're back to the domestic now. And this seems to be a thing. This might not be Sheets, guys. It really depends on who wrote this document. If the person who wrote this document, and think about all the stuff that goes into these stupid lawsuits. The lawyer who wrote this document, if they had come out of an abusive breakup, maybe Sheets didn't want to focus on the abuse, but the person writing the document couldn't do anything but focus on it. That's also a possibility. Or they thought it would be advantageous currently with the Me Too stuff going on. That's also a possibility. Lots could happen. Okay, so then now we go back to the copyright stuff a little bit. Mixter met Mariah Rose, known by her stage name at the time, That Poppy, so she's already a character. I think this is kind of important. I don't know that I would have done this. I don't know if I would have made her a character already in the story. Maybe it's true, but it's not Sheets' job to do this. It's not Sheets' job to give the history of That Poppy. It's Sheets' job to give the history of Sheets and Mars Argo. At the time, Poppy was a brunette with dark brown hair. Great. Informed and believed that Mixter and Pereira began working together a few months after meeting, although Sheets is unaware of it at the time. Okay. Soon thereafter, shorter blonde hairstyle resembling that of Sheets at the time. Okay. I can't stress enough that short blonde hair is not copyrightable. It's just not. It's just not. You would have to have a specific cut that you hired a hairstylist artist to create a specific look for you. And even that would be really tough. So I can't say it enough that this just isn't going to be copyright infringement. It can't. Okay. Sheets requested that Mixter not contact her going forward. Plus, if they're working together, that's one thing. If Mixter and Poppy are romantically involved, which I don't think is alleged in this document, if they become romantically involved, or if one of them wants the other to be romantically involved, and Jason Benet mentioned earlier, if Mixter has a type, then Poppy might be trying to emulate that type for a different reason than business. And that might be her pursuing him. That might be him pursuing her. That's just how it goes. It might be their mutual feelings. It might just be the fact that she saw, the Mars Argo stuff and thought, oh, he likes blondes with short hair, and we'll work together better if I'm blonde with short hair. Or she could have just liked the look of being blonde with short hair. Who knows? I would have left that out entirely, the hair thing. Sorry, just doesn't just ancillary to everything. Continued to break into her gated apartment complex. So I want to go back real quick, and this is going to take forever. They're not dating. Yeah, I got it. Sure they aren't. But maybe they are, and you'd never know because it might be better marketing for them not to be dating. But let's talk about what this subheading is, and let's remember where we have ended up. Ms. Sheets and Mr. Mixter began Mars Argo in 2009 and created original content until 2014. What's the last paragraph in this section about? Paragraph before, we've got threatening suicide, breaking into a gated apartment. Final paragraph, stalking her in her courtyard, demands that he delete all the videos in the YouTube channel. She was frightened. So we go from a subheading of creating a project together to a subheading of domestic abuse. Lack of focus on what's important to this section of the document. That's the problem. Is it usual that a case is stronger during the initial complaint? Don't know what you mean exactly. So Mixter began to copy the Mars Argo project. See, this is weird. Who owns the Mars Argo project? Sheets. It looks like Sheets and Mixter co-own the Mars Argo project. Again, a lack of focus. Mixter began to copy the Mars Argo character through Poppy, and to increasing. This is weird, weirdly worded, and to increasingly threaten and attack Miss Sheets. I guess. So then, releasing videos with Poppy. First video release was entitled Poppy Eats Cotton Candy. Sheets originally met Poppy, short brown hair, short blonde bob, and her natural voice is altered to be like Mars Argo. Okay. Again, okay. When I first heard the complaint from Mars Argo, it sounded like she had a stronger complaint than this document presents. Carolus, this is that first document. This is it. Same one. Okay. In addition to copying the look of Sheets, the aesthetic of the Poppy videos also is similar to that of Mars Argo. Like Mars Argo, most Poppy videos had a plain white-hued backdrop or framed like a portrait with the main subject in the middle of the frame. Poppy would tilt her head to the camera, and the videos had a colorful, childlike kawaii pop culture effect. Kawaii is a culture of cuteness in Japan. Carolus mentioned this earlier. Kid Carolus mentioned this earlier, that both Mars Argo and Poppy are often described as having a doll-like quality. If Mars Argo completely took or heavily borrowed the aesthetic of kawaii pop culture, which would not be copyright infringement, let me be clear on that. But if her image is derivative of a greater culture or a greater style, infringement based on that image and being similarly situated becomes more difficult. I don't think I would have included the kawaii pop culture effect. Like, I don't think that belongs in this case. If Mars Argo is created by Brittany Sheets, she needs to own it. She needs to have it. And she can't have taken it from kawaii pop culture. I wouldn't even hint that she did, personally. I would have said specifically, Sheets created the Mars Argo character. She created the look. She picked out the outfits. She did the hairstyling and makeup. She framed the photos. She... or composed the photos. She did the post-processing on any photos that were taken. She set the image of the Mars Argo character, and Poppy is copying it, or Titanic Sinclair is using Poppy to copy it. Plain white-hued backdrop. That's a hard thing to copyright because a lot of people do that. Including, I mentioned this before, Stefan Molyneux. And that's an art style. It's an art style that's in there. Yeah. Okay. I'm focused on writing a better complaint, not picking apart the same complaint again. Okay. So I would take out this. Like, this is such a specific thing that doesn't need to be specific here. And it's an undermining specific thing because a lot of different people have used this sort of style long before Mars Argo was born, including George Lucas and Stanley Kubrick. That sort of minimalist visual approach is not new. There's a whole lot of movies in the 50s and moving through the 70s that would use that sort of industrial cleanness. I don't know how to describe it. I'm probably massacring it. I'm not an art history major, but washed out solid color backgrounds are used by many, many artists. Thank you, Tillip, my art guy. Yeah. And I mean, there was a whole, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Tillip, but there is a whole movement of this type of art. Yes, Andy Warhol, of course. The whiskey will flow is a good thing to say, Jason, because it is time. Keeping with the kawaii culture, I moved on to my other Japanese Kirin whiskey for my second glass here. This was given to me again by Jacob Cerezia, and I really appreciate all of it. DFW Knights. Andy Warhol called. He wants his concepts of interchangeable celebrities back. Uh-oh. Andy Warhol, man. Yeah, the concept of interchangeable celebrities, interchangeable products, the lack of aesthetic during the utilitarian the utilitarian consumer revolution of the 50s and 60s, 50s really, the post-war industrial utilitarian look. Like that's the Campbell soup cans, guys. Look, it's 100 of the exact same thing. There's nothing pretty about it. So yeah, these are problems. I'm focusing a lot on this. This needs to be taken out. It needs to be less specific here. It needs to be that Mars Argo created the composition for the photos. She created the composition for the video shots. She created the aesthetic that Mars Argo would have in each of the shots. Brittany Sheets is the responsible person for all of the created aspects of Mars Argo in this complaint. Make Titanic Sinclair fight for every single inch of his contributions. Make it. Because she believes she owns it. If she believes she owns it, she has to believe he doesn't. So if that's the case, that's the argument she should make. All right. Next. So here we are. Now this is increasingly threaten and attack Miss Sheets. So this is a mixed paragraph, a mixed sort of section of both. Don't know that that's the best strategy. I would restructure the thing and I would order it by complaint. Tillip says postmodernism. Right. Right. Thank you. Ryan English, are there better complaint consultants lawyers hire? Because once you hit 100K subs, side business opportunity. Maybe. No, yes, actually there are specific, lawyers will hire other lawyers to do specific aspects of cases that either they're weak at or they don't want to. For example, civil procedure. Lots of lawyers don't like civil procedure, and some lawyers really love it and don't want to do the rest of the lawyering stuff because they like rules. I don't know if it's like an autism thing or whatever, but civil procedure is heavily, heavily rule-based and extremely strict. And so if you find someone who loves order and rule and following through on those things, they can be a very valuable attorney to do the civil procedure stuff while you focus on argument and court appearances and stuff like that. Having these stream hiccups is so much fun. Shill your Patreon. My Patreon's up there. It's shilled all the time. Okay. So then he broke into her apartment. And again, this isn't a problem that it's in here. I would say it's just on the focus, but we're kind of getting into the middle of the background. So I get it, but I don't really like it. So now we're back on the break-in stuff, breaking things. Okay, March 2015, Titanic Sinclair began shooting the music video for a song called Trust Fund. All lyrics of Trust Fund are an obvious jab. This is a problem. This is a big problem. At Miss Sheets and her family's wealth. This is a big problem. The song was later released in 2015. A copy of the lyrics to Trust Fund is attached here too. This is a problem in the sense that it's obvious to Mars Argo or Britney Sheets. It is not obvious to a judge who doesn't know who you are. And at this point, she's kind of alluded to the fact that her family has been supporting her and Titanic Sinclair through this. What she has not done is stated, I come from a wealthy family. And I don't think that that's a good strategy move in general. But I come from a wealthy family needs to be in there for this to be obvious. She should, if you're trying to lay out the abuse through this thing, which I think, knock it off. If he's breaking into your apartment, bad. If he's threatening you with violence, bad. If he's making fun of you and your family's wealth in a song, not bad. Maybe a jerk move. Who cares? Not actionable in court. Doesn't contribute to the facts of the domestic abuse at all. In fact, I would say it might detract from it. Okay. All right. Broke into her courtyard, texted the picture of himself. Okay. Like, these are bad things if they happened, and I'm going to assume that they happened for the purpose of this video. I don't know whether they happened or not. I don't really care. I know there's been some doubt cast on some of this stuff, so I don't want to, I'm not taking sides. I don't have one. Let's see. I took that sip of whiskey and I read Drudge Steam saying breakup songs are against the law and laughed. Thank you. Thank you for thank you for making me choke on my liquor. Okay. Pursue a solo venture. He became violent. Took numerous actions aimed at isolating and intimidating her. Emailing, texting her, disturbing messages. So we're on to full abuse now. Trust fund single. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So look at this. So here we are. 64, paragraph 64. On May 7th, 2015, Mr. Mixer posted a photo on Instagram about his trust fund single, which he released that day on his own website. The photo he posted on Instagram, the album cover for Trust Fund, again blatantly copied a concept that Miss Sheets had confidentially told Mr. Mixter while still working together. Mr. Mixter, again, as I drink more, it sounds like Mr. Mister, and I want to bust out some Kyrie or Broken Wings. In March 2015, Sheets was working on merchandise for a solo music venture named Guppy, and one of the products that she created was heart-shaped candy that comes in a prescription bottle. Mr. Mixer had seen Miss Sheets' photograph of the candy bottle and later copied it. He specifically used a photograph of prescription bottles as his Instagram announcement of Trust Fund. Another artist with whom Titanic Sinclair was working at the time had a show and sold a prescription bottle candy. Later, Poppy 2 made videos and sold a prescription bottle of candy. Look at this, though. The two shots aren't the same. Don't include the photo. Like, if that's what you need to do, don't include the photo. If you want to tell this story, I guess, go ahead. But these photos are not at all related. There's no candy in this one. There's pills in prescription bottles, implying that, I guess, the artistic message is that people on trust funds or wealthy people or whatever are over-medicating, or they're detaching from life through medication or something. I don't know. But this is not an example of copyright infringement. And again, you can find pictures of prescription bottles online. I would rework this. I'm not sure how yet. Let me think as we go on. After careful consideration, hearing Rekieta law, I will no longer purchase Mars Argo t-shirts, which I otherwise would have never purchased because I'm a straight guy. Okay. Let's see. The same day he posted the trust fund Instagram, he also released the song Guppy and intentionally titled the track with the name of the new solo project that Miss Sheets had been working on before she had a chance to release her project. Because of these actions, Miss Sheets eventually decided to abandon her project. I mean, how can a judge can't prove this? They just can't. And this is a problem here. I don't know that this belongs in here. I know you're trying to allege that he's copying at all these points, but I don't know. And again, we've kind of lost the script. Is this done to intimidate her, or is this done as part of the copyright? And I'm going to talk about this heading again in a minute. Lyrics to the song Guppy are another blatant stab at Miss Sheets. Stabbing at people in song lyrics isn't illegal, and it's not copyright infringement. And among other things, reference her father's money in their relationship. Let's see. On or about May 10th, Poppy posted a photo taken by Mr. Mixter in which she's wearing Miss Sheets' jacket. But Miss Sheets didn't create the jacket. Poppy now not only looked and sounded like Mars Argo, but was wearing her actual clothes. They don't actually look alike in these photos, I want to point out. And wearing someone else's outfit isn't copyright infringement. I mentioned that before. I honestly would not bring this into this suit under a copyright infringement claim. Is it illegal to stab people with music? Lorraine, I know this is a pro Mars Argo video, and I'm going to get to that. I would say, I'm saying how I would write a better complaint, and I would leave this out. Absolutely cut this from the complaint. Like, these two in jackets, in different poses, different framing, I would cut that out. It's not helping the case. It's detracting from the case. It looks nitpicky. Unless they're trying to tell the story of the domestic abuse and the intimidation and not the copyright, which could be the case, but I don't know because of how mixed up the complaint has been on what section we're in. So I'm going to get back to that in a minute as we get through this section, which we're almost through, okay? This language would have been helpful here, presumably seeking to intimidate or something like that. Ms. Sheets, into speaking with him on the following day, he sent her a text about potential drug overdose, saying just took 11 oxys later, followed by gibberish. They're erratic and frightening. If he's on 11 oxys, I think they probably would be gibberish. Then emailed a direct threat to Ms. Sheets, saying you don't even realize the hole you're digging yourself into. I said before, this isn't a threat, so calling something a threat in a legal document means that you think it's a threat. And so a judge is going to read that and go, that's not a threat. And that's a problem. I would take that out, absolutely. Throughout June 2015, continued to send threatening emails along with demeaning and untrue messages about Miss Sheets. These are fine. This is actually better than including the specific quote at this phase, because she can say that these things are threatening, and then if they get to discovery, they can be demanded, like produce the threatening emails. If you still, well, I don't have them anymore, or I took them as a threat. It gives you a different chance to frame it than in the complaint where you might not. This is a good case where being a little less specific might be good. But I wouldn't say threatening emails. I would say continue to send emails to Miss Sheets that she believed he intended as threats. It's a slight distinction. Upon information and belief were intended as threats. That's how I would go with that. Because sending threatening emails is a legal conclusion. So Tillip says those photos have different backgrounds, different color palettes. The depths are different. The size ratios are different. Poses are different. The only thing similar is the jacket. Right. So, and that's the question is this a copyright claim or is this a domestic abuse and the stalking claim? Copyright claim, it's bad. Stalking, it might be beneficial. And this is where those subheadings are so important. Okay. Creepy distorted drawing of Miss Sheets' mother Diane to his Instagram saying, I drew my mom Diane tonight. I miss my mom. Mr. Mixter's mom is not named Diane. But a lot of people call other people by pet names. I don't know how many people I have met that said, "Oh, this is the community mom, right? This is the mom of everybody. I'm the mom." Those sorts of things are pretty common. Diane could be a very motherly figure and very loving. We can't know. Sheets can know, but we can't know what Titanic Sinclair meant by this, and the court cannot accept that this is just is actually a distorted threat. And the drawing isn't necessarily threatening. I mean, it's a little weird, but it's stylistic. I can't draw people. If I drew her, she'd look like a stick figure. It'd be terrible. Are you Diane? I'm Diane. There we go. Shoot. My secret is now out. Whoa. Sorry, that's a whoa for me, not for you guys. All right. Feeling not only harassed and in danger, but all of her creative output was being sourced from Mr. Mixter's projects. And the Poppy storyline, Sheets largely stopped posting online as Mars Argo. Okay. Here's $5 for your lawsplaining. $5 more will follow if you do this topless. You might have to join on Patreon for the topless stuff. Okay. At this time, Sheets believed the only way for her to avoid Mixer was to hide her whereabouts from him. So this is clearly in the threat stuff, and that's fine. Despite her absence, he continued to demean her on social media. Complete nutcase, gave up. Okay, this is back and forth. He said, she said stuff. It's not really great. You can put it in here. That's fine, especially into the threat section. But here, let's focus back and do a quick summary of this section. This is important for that domestic abuse thing. Treatment is good. Diagnosis is good. That I would definitely leave in there. I might have led with that on the domestic abuse thing. Actually, yeah, let's laser focus this. The beginning section of domestic abuse, if I'm writing this complaint, starts with this. As a result of Mr. Mixter's actions, Ms. Sheets has been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, for which she has received regular treatment and continues to do so. And if she's not in treatment and she's my client, she's getting back in treatment. I don't care if she's recovered. She's getting back in it. That belongs at the very beginning of your section on domestic abuse. It belongs in the middle of your section on domestic abuse, and it belongs at the end of your section on domestic abuse. Let me tell you how she got to the point where she required treatment from all of this abuse. Okay? So here's the problem. Begins to copy the Mars Argo project with Poppy and to increasingly threaten and attack Miss Sheets. Is this section about copyright or is this section about threats? It's ambiguous from the line, and therefore everything we have in here is ambiguous as to what's a copy and what's a threat. That's bad. No. Focus the complaint. Focus, focus, focus. What's important? That's why you lay it out by cause of action. Here, let me tell you how he has copied my materials. Here's all the stuff in chronological order about how we developed the project and about how he later copied it with Poppy. Next section. Now I'm going to tell you about the abuse I've endured that has caused me to get PTSD and require ongoing treatment from medical professionals. Here's the chronology of our relationship, our personal relationship, the breakup, the abuse I endured during it, the abuse I endured following it. You think Poppy not being allowed to post on Twitter is part of the TRO? I doubt it. The TRO should have no jurisdiction over Poppy. It would maybe have jurisdiction over Titanic Sinclair. Okay. So, again, this is a focus problem. Where is the copying delineated from the abuse? And they're both relevant and they're both important, and you can pick either one to go first. I think Argo or the lawyer drafting this really wanted the abuse to be first, and they should have just run with that. I mean, that's devastating. Imagine the intro that starts off this introduction. This is an introduction to the story of the abuse that led to Mars Argo, Brittany Sheets, professionally known as Mars Argo, requiring treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder in an ongoing basis. That's your intro line, some slightly better worded, but boom, like, ouch, ouch. This guy is so abusive that this is what happened. Then you get down to it. Also, he stole all of the images for this new project, whatever. That's how you transition. And how you transition is important. In addition to the PTSD Miss Sheets has suffered from the effects of the abuse of Corey Mixter, Mixter has also been stealing ideas created by Miss Sheets and infringing upon copyrights that she rightfully holds, and has used that abuse, intimidation, and her diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder to reap financial advantage for himself. That's how you transition. If you start with the domestic abuse claim and then you transition into the copyright, you say how he used the domestic abuse to beat her down, to get her to a point where he knew that she was defeated and then she wouldn't fight back. And then he used that to commit acts of copyright. Gold. Or you start with the copyright stuff and say he stole all these things, and then also during the time he was stealing these things, to compound the loss of the project and of her creative work and a taking of her creativity, he was taking her independence, her autonomy, her ability to function in society by abusing, harassing, stalking, and chasing her out of Los Angeles. There you go. You've transitioned from copyright into abuse. And you have to make these things clear because a judge doesn't know the background. I can't stress that enough. Neither does a jury. They don't know these people. So you have to tell the story. And you don't tell stories in this weird, muddy sort of back and forth. If you look at how novels are constructed, you might have novels that do a back and forth or bounce around, but they do it clearly in chapter breaks and they do it very creatively. Don't go that far in a lawsuit. Don't go that far in a lawsuit. Okay, so Poppy grows in popularity. Numerous fans and commentators note substantial similarities to Mars Argo. This is brand confusion, and this is a trademark element, not a copyright element. And this is just, in my opinion, poor drafting. Or they should have made a trademark claim, but they couldn't really because there's no trademark that's been violated here. But so here they come to my first really big problem. I mentioned it before, the delete your Facebook videos. These two videos are vastly different creatures. There is no copyright violation. She could have trademarked delete your Facebook. They could argue that delete your Facebook is a trademarked title of a creative work, possibly, and that the trademark is owned by her or Mars Argo or the Mars Argo Project or Mars Argo LLC. We don't really know because it hasn't been clear. But if you're going to claim that, claim it as a trademark claim. This is not a copyright claim. And if this is your first big piece of evidence in noting substantial similarities, those substantial similarities aren't copyrights. Don't go with that. Lead with the biggest and best piece of evidence that you have. Doritos Monster Energy Drink. Doritos Monster Energy Drink. Doritos Monster Energy Drink, right? Like that is by far, from what I've seen, the most obvious poaching of Mars Argo content is the Doritos Monster Energy Drink versus the other video. When you look at them side by side, you can actually see that the composition is the same. The script is very similar. Now, granted, in the Mars Argo video, it goes into more things and less specific products. There's a potato chip, gummy bears, or whatever. But those things are really, really, really close. I would say that has the best chance of being copyright infringement from what I've seen. So Again, if you think that there's other evidence comparable to that or that's better than that, or if you want to see if it's as good as that and you want me to see it, super chat and send me the information and I'll look at it live. But from what I've seen, the Monster Energy drink Doritos thing is the closest thing to copyright infringement. And I'm not entirely sure it is, but I think you got a really good argument that it is. The question is who owned that? Who created it? Who created it? Photographs are very similar, e.g. the one with the armchair. We're going to go down to those in a little bit. Talked about them a little bit before, but we're going to go back to it. Okay, so here we come to the next problem. Sheets modeled for a brand called Little Sunny Bite based out of Tokyo, Japan. Work was published in Nylon Japan magazine and in promotional materials for the brand. So here's Mars Argo, Poppy Copy. Titanic made Doritos videos before meeting Mars. I guess that undermines it, right? If that's the case, then it undermines it. But, I don't know. This is another one of those where I would be really hesitant to put this in. Look at the details that we have on this allegation. Sheets modeled for the brand called Little Sunny Bite based out of Tokyo, Japan. The work was published in Nylon Japan magazine and in promotional materials for the brand. Okay. Next information. On the left is a photograph of Miss Sheets wearing a blue skirt by the brand and a long sleeve white button down shirt. On the right is a photograph of Poppy largely copying the same look, wearing a blue skirt with a long sleeve white button down shirt. So oh wait, no, sorry. We already read that. More like Wells Fargo. Okay, so some people are saying that Titanic didn't make Doritos videos before meeting Mars. I don't know, guys. That's what I'm telling you. I don't know, and the judge isn't going to know either. Here's the problem with these two paragraphs. Not specifically alleging who created the look. Modeled for the brand called Little Sunny Bite based out of Tokyo, Japan. Work was published in a magazine. Does the magazine own that photo? Or does Mars Argo own that photo? Don't know. Not clear in the complaint. Assert that you own the photo. Especially if you don't know, but you think you do. Assert that you own the photo. You're not lying if you actually genuinely believe it. Unless you know that you don't, assert that you own it. But I think Nylon Japan magazine might own it. Little Sunny Bite might own it, because if that's their clothing and they created the outfit, that might be their copyright. Because some fashion designer produced it, and out of the work product doctrine, that gets owned by the brand. There you go. I also have a Harley Davidson hat in here, which is a little weird. But, who knows? Or did Mars Argo create that look? If she created that look, better claim. But it's ambiguous. Again, poorly written complaint, in my opinion, leads to ambiguity of who owns it. You could even leave these paragraphs in, but say, Miss Sheets picked out this outfit and designed it from products available by Little Sunny Bite. There you go. I created the outfit from this brand's wardrobe to do the campaign. As part of that, I own the look and am able to use it in my promotional materials. There you go. Poppy has high socks with the skirt. She is hotter and therefore wins in a court of law. The other problem is that these shirts are not the same shirts. Probably not the same brand. Neither are these skirts the same. Not even close. You've got pleats. You've got no pleats. You've got different designs, different locations. You've got like a shoulder ruffle here. So they're very different. And again, background whites are entirely different. You've got a shadow in this picture. You don't. So even the composition of the photo is different. You got a hat. You not. She looks like a zombie in this. I shouldn't say that. She looks alabaster and Japanese, maybe invoking a geisha sort of look in a modern, cutesy way. And that's fine. That's a good curated image if that's what she curated. Created, whatever. I think both of them work. But did Miss Sheets create this look? Did the brand create the look? Did the magazine create the look? Did the photographer create the look? It's unclear from the complaint. Sheets should own it. Say she owns it. Make Titanic say she doesn't. How does he know? How does he know? Is there a document that says who owns it? Let's see. She looks like a corpse. Aw. No, but I don't mean like she's very, very pale. And that, of course, in Japan, whiteness is it's a commodity. At least from what I hear. I don't know. I don't go to Japan. But I hear whiteness is very much a commodity in Japanese culture from a sexual appeal sort of standpoint. So, you know, because it's different. It's exotic. And they have different perspectives than other people. Not like here where white people are abhorrent and terrible. It's a joke, guys. Okay. So, yeah. So I don't like this. She can leave this in here. And she can simply say, I created this look. This look belongs to me. But she doesn't say it. And she puts in these other parties that might own it. And that's ambiguous. I don't really like ambiguity in my complaints. Jesse Hula Hoops McGee says, I want to see that Doritos video DFW Nights in Rekieta Law. I don't know what he's talking about. Again, I have no information on that. I'm taking his word for it. Lorraine says it demonstrates wealth. You can stay inside and not have to work. Very well could be. Very well could be. And Japanese have a history of whiteface in art, right? Kabuki and geisha aesthetics are both Japanese cultural creations, and they both have the sort of whiteface going on. You know, that's just how it goes. Said he sent it to you. Oh. Oh my goodness. Okay, just a moment. We'll see how this goes. All right. Media source? No. Browser. Wee. YouTube. All right, hold on. Hold on. Bear with me as I'm like basically a boomer struggling through OBS. All right. Let me do we have audio on this? Hold on. I know what the problem is. Let me get you some audio, because I'm guessing you couldn't see that.
Hey, are you okay? I'm starving. What are you hungry for? Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Doritos. You know, I'm kind of hungry too. Really? What are you hungry for? Doritos. Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Sandwich. Doritos. Sandwich?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that hungry anymore.
Yeah, I'm not really hungry either.
All right. Well, okay, just a second here. The problem is the amount of soy in this video. I actually turned Mars Argo into a woman. Okay. That undermines the Doritos Monster Energy drink thing, because that might be a Titanic Sinclair creation. I don't know that one video, and I don't know if he created that or if someone else did, right? I don't know the process behind that, but it leads to the presumption that Mars Argo didn't create the Dorito or the chips thing, because that's very similar in theme. I wouldn't say it's copywritten though. Tilip says that Titanic video gave me cancer. I'll send you my chemo bill. But that's a pretty shocking video in the context of this suit and alleging it. And it's part of what I've been kind of wanting to touch on is, does Sheets own this stuff? How much did Titanic contribute? Eslo Kehe says, can they prove that Titanic Sinclair's style was completely different before meeting her to strengthen that it was her creativity? Maybe. But like that video alone, if you're going to claim that some of these things that Poppy is doing are infringements on you, when you look at what you've done in comparison to that, makes it hard to claim that there's infringement going on. Or maybe that's why they don't use the Doritos. Is the Doritos thing even in here? I'll check. No, the Jesse Hula Hoops McGee, when I say I'm a boomer, it's a self-deprecating joke at my ability to grasp technology. That's all. I'm at the very tail end of Gen X. I'm 36. Okay, so then Poppy worked with the Little Sunny Bright brand. Similarly, Mars Argo would regularly wear Saniro Hello Kitty items in her videos. Poppy became the face of Saniro Hello Kitty. Again, ambiguity in who owns the image. Sanrio probably owns that image. And if Poppy worked with Little Sunny Bird, that's not her fault. Even if she intentionally did it because Mars Argo worked there, that's still not copyright infringement. The Up and Up, correct. We don't know that Titanic was the one that created the Doritos video completely. Don't know at all. I think I said that. I don't know that one video is enough. I don't know that that was him who created it. But it leads to the conclusion that maybe, or it doesn't lead to the conclusion, it leads to the doubt about her creativity involved in the process. And it leads to the idea that maybe Titanic was including more. Now, if it comes out that she had a big part in creating that Doritos video, then absolutely that would be beneficial to her and she should include it. She should include it in this case. Okay. So Island Records visually copied Mars Argo's look, including wearing angel wings. I discussed this before. This is a bad one. Mars Argo doesn't own angel wings image. If anybody does, it's Victoria's Secret. And I don't think they even do. It's just a thing. And these looks are very, very different. They're very different. So I wouldn't put that in. And the complaint doesn't have to be 39 pages. Okay, so when I'm saying that I would take this out, take it out. Take it out. You don't need to... Sometimes it's helpful to prove like a pattern of things, but you don't need to for copyright infringement. You can say the infringing work is infringed. You can say that elements of Mars Argo's things are peppered throughout Poppy's creative stuff. But point out those elements and stuff like that and focus on them. But focus where you really got it. And here you don't have it, I don't think at all. And you can shorten this complaint. You don't have to put everything in the complaint. I did a Google search for singing with angel wings and found many parties for Mars Argo to sue. Okay. So then this one's a little bit better. It's better, but it's not great because this is just kind of a vampire aesthetic. Blood in the mouth, black clothing, very pallid skin. I don't know. But I don't know that this is a problem either. The one thing I don't have... So 2016 Poppy YouTube video also directly copied a Mars Argo photograph. Oh, that's tough. That's tough. What was this photograph? What was in the video? So you have an argument for fair use because a video is going to be a significant transformation of any photograph. A video based on a photograph, like here's one frame. Now here are 30 frames per second of video that are different than that one frame. That's a really, really tough one. Really, really tough one. And if you're saying it's a derivative work, you need to expressly say that the video is derivative of the photograph and talk about what the video that Poppy did does and how it is derivative of the artistic expression of the photograph. And frankly, like, you have license to really talk about what you're trying to do with the photograph as an artist and what its meaning is and all of that, and then apply it to the video. Take the facts that you have and apply it to the situation. That's what I would be doing if I were focusing on this. I don't know the context because I don't know, I'm not familiar with this video of Poppy's, and I don't know what was in Sheet's head when she took this photo. But tell the judge about it. Like, take this dumb thing out, put this thing up there, and blow it up about how this is derivative work of this, and that the video is clearly an expanding upon of the idea created by Mars Argo, and she was the one who should have the right to do that, and Poppy does not. It infringed it 1,000 times. Nice. Well played. Well played. This one really bothers me, and I think this is a really poor idea to include this. I would not include this at all. Sheets had mentioned to Mr. Mixter while they were creating content and understood that Mr. Mixer was only privy to such material for his work with Mars Argo. The devil in photos she showed are almost identical to the devil in Poppy's video, but this is common devil iconography, and Mars Argo is admitting that this is borrowed from someone else. This is art that's borrowed. The image is borrowed. She can't claim to own it if she's borrowing the image from somewhere else. This is just not good. Not good. I would take this whole segment about this photo out. Not good. Hand gestures and lighting while performing, down to holding her fingers together with hands flared out at a 90-degree angle with pinkish hued backlight providing an ethereal effect. I mean, that's tough. That's tough. Maybe Mars Argo needs to assert that she owns the pinkish hued lighting, that she created this look. Like, I'm going to stand in a white dress. I'm going to have pink backlight. This is what I want for my artistic expression. My hands are symbols of the artistic expression in this way. She has to own it, and she isn't doing it in the complaint. I think if you look, that pink backlight singing is probably kind of common. Tyler Delhi, I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. And if that's the case, it needs to be in the document. So we talked about the curtsy before. The Shirley Temple stuff kind of undermines it. But I don't think it undermines it because it's Shirley Temple and saying that Mars Argo took it from Shirley Temple. I think it undermines it because curtsying in a white dress has so much artistic symbolism that is not unique in it. And I'm not slamming Mars Argo there, but like, white is associated with innocence as far as clothing is concerned. You've got white flowers in the background, clearly white molding, trim. Like, you're trying to establish this clean sort of look. clean and innocent, I would suspect the curtsy. The curtsy is very cute and innocent, or respectful and innocent. It's not lewd. It's not offensive. None of those things. So that's common uses of some of the symbolism involved here. To say that Poppy is copying you rather than copying those sort of elements is a tough claim. So Poppy has further copied her use of the curtsy while wearing all white, presumably as commentary on innocence and propriety. Okay, innocence and propriety. But if it's commentary on innocence and propriety, it's not a copy of Mars Argo, because a lot of people have used these things. That's what I'm trying to say. So again, what are we trying to prove here? This is not a case of copyright infringement. And if it's not copyright infringement, it needs to be out of the document. Mars has a song called Creep Show, and Poppy has an unreleased song titled Guns and Gold, which samples the instrumental from Creep Show. Hard to say, man. Sampling instrumental is really, really, really tricky on the copyright. It's also hard to say who owns the instrumental. Is it Mars Argo? Is it the guitarist who did it? Is it a composer that they licensed it from? Did they have someone else compose that guitar or the instrumental piece? Like, who owns it there? Very, very deep stuff. I need to someday do a video on music copyrights because they're absurdly complicated. And I shouldn't... DFW Knight says it's not illegal to sample a song you never released. That's not entirely true. Once you record something into a medium, you write it down, you record it onto a tape or a CD or something like that, then you technically have a copyright interest in it. So it can be illegal to sample something you never release if you actually own it and if the sampling amounts to an infringement. Numerous other examples of Titanic Sinclair's and Poppy's use of Mars Argo's prior work, ideas, aesthetic, and style. These are very vague categories, and I know they're going to give me some specific examples, but it doesn't look like it from that sentence, and the specific examples they give are a little bit of trouble. But Donald Glover proved you can sample anything from anyone. If you're famous, no one can sue you. Okay. Arcane Audio says, I know a lot about music copyrights. It's a shot show. I think I know what you meant. And I agree. It's just a mess. Is shower singing actionable? Depends on how bad you are at it. All right. Bunny ears. Throw it out. Unless Mars Argo created these bunny ears, you got to throw it out. And I say this as a favor to Mars Argo. This dilutes her claim. This dilutes her claims, in my opinion. This one is kind of troubling too. After a blonde Mars Argo uploaded a YouTube segment in her light-colored bathtub filled with bubble bath set against a baby pink backdrop. A blonde That Poppy later released an EP on Island Records entitled Bubble Bath, in which she sits in a light-colored bathtub against a baby pink backdrop. Maybe. Who created the shot? She's not telling me that she created the look. That's a problem. Who created the look? And I'm not asking her to prove who created the look. Just say you created it. Take it. It's yours. Own it. Make them prove the opposite thing. Make them go against you. So, oh yeah, here's the Doritos segment. Poppy's copying of Mars Argo continued in February 2017. Poppy posted a YouTube segment that reproduced a prior Mars Argo YouTube video. That's not true. It's not a direct reproduction. That's okay. Poppy video features Poppy holding up a large bag of brand name potato chips and other commercial products and tasting them while looking directly at the camera. Concept, action, line delivery, and editing style employed in the video were virtually identical. I will agree. Those things are virtually identical to a Mars Argo segment posted on the GroceryBag.tv channel. Listen to the passive wording of this. To a segment Mars Argo created, produced, and posted. That's how you word this stuff. Solidify her ownership of everything. It's because Hairspray created the look. uh, am I going to get to use my angry emojis? You can use them all you want. I don't know. What would make you angry, Lorraine? So this one I've talked about before. This eyeliner thing. Like, honestly, if I don't have a caption that this is Poppy based on the eyes and the eyeliner, my brain goes to Britney Spears. That's probably because I'm old enough to remember when Britney Spears was like 16 and just coming out and had a look like this in, what was it, Stronger? Is that the video? Or Oops, I Did It Again. One of those videos, man, she has, like, I would swear that's a frame pull from that video. Okay. Even copy her unique style of makeup. I don't see this as unique. White eyeliner on her waterline, distinctive blue eyeliner directly beneath her lower lashes. I don't know enough about makeup, but I don't think that these are unique looks, personally. Maybe. The Up and Up. It's not any one point. It's all of them together. Just saying she didn't invent bunny ears is missing the point. No, it isn't. It isn't missing the point, and that's the problem. Saying that it's all these things together, this long pattern of copying some sort of vague image, is actually the thing that's missing the point, because copyright infringement is work specific. I own this thing, not this overarching broad thing. I own this work that I created here. I created this. Maker's Mark, okay, owns this label. Look at this. This is a paper printed bourbon label. Look at that. Basil Hayden's has a paper printed bourbon label. It's not affixed in the same way, but it's the same sort of material. They're both Kentucky bourbon whiskeys. Maker's Mark is older than Basil Hayden's, I think. So did Basil Hayden's copy Maker's Mark by bottling an alcoholic distilled beverage from Kentucky? They followed them to Kentucky, and then they put this sort of thing on there. You know, they have some differences in bottles, but it's not the one thing. It's everything combined. No, it doesn't work that way with copyright, and that's the problem with this case. It's a big problem. They're not laser focusing on the things that are important, and they're trying to say that the entirety of Poppy is copied from Mars Argo, but that's clearly not true. It's clearly not entirely a derivative work. So if they want to lay it out, they need to go to specific things. And frankly, like, if you're drafting this complaint and you're doing that, go to the most monetarily successful things they have. Pick up their music videos with 45 million views. Clearly, that's a valuable piece of property. Pick up anything they won an award on, and go through it with a fine-tooth comb and find those expensive things, those specific things that they took. That's what they took. They took this from me. It's integral to the production of the piece, blah, 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 blah. But when you say she wore bunny ears, well, so does every playmate from 1980 to 2015 who works at the Bunny Ranch or attends a Bunny Ranch party. They wear the Playboy bunny outfit, right, with the tights and then the bunny ears. Mars Argo can't own that. She just can't. I'm sorry. Like, she can't own bunny ears. These are even the cheap store bunny ears that you buy at like a dollar store. They're not even specifically made. They're not uniquely created, and that is a problem. If I'm writing a better complaint, I have to throw that out, because I would make this counter argument, and so would any lawyer who's going to go up against that and say she's going to claim to own bunny ears, something you can buy at every Walmart in the country for 88 cents. And you got to have the 88 cents because that's how much it would cost at Walmart. It wouldn't cost 99, it'd cost 88. DFW, contrast this with Addams Family versus the Munsters. No, I'd rather not. not versed enough on either of them, and a little bit too whiskey deep to do that. But I want to point out, like, you've got to hit the specifics. I think even with the Titanic Sinclair video that you hit this one really hard. Put a page, 2 pages of the document on, go frame by frame. Not frame by frame really, but do frame pulls of the videos. Post them. Mars Argo is drinking a drink. Poppy is drinking Monster Energy drink. The only difference is she's saying potato chip and Poppy is saying Doritos. So she's got a specific brand. Mars Argo does not have a specific brand. Like, they're holding name brand chips, but she's not saying it. But I mean, I really think they need to spend like 3-4 pages on this video, and they really can lay it out. Lay that out. These 2 videos, I should say. Cut this stuff. A judge looks at that. Honestly, and if you are pro Mars Argo, seriously, put yourself, you're going to explain to a 70-year-old man those makeups are the same. Think about the practicality of this. You're standing in front of someone who was born in 1943. Born during World War II. That's the person who you're going to explain the similarities in the application of eyeliner on the waterline to. Think about it. Do you want to do that? Or do you want to just show him the exact same composition and play an audio clip of this Doritos video and the Mars Argo potato chip videos? Like, which one do you want to spend your time on? Which one are you going to win on? You're going to win on the Doritos. I understand this. Doritos, Lay's, I eat both of those. They're both chips. They're saying the same sounds. There's this weird background music. It's kind of this eerie post-processing thing that's happened. And they're crunching the chips, saying, and then naming them, and then moving on. They're shoving food in their face. It looks the same, and a 75-year-old man's going to understand that. 75-year-old man, probably not going to understand what white eyeliner on the waterline is. I don't even know. No idea. Tyler, I'm not familiar with it. If it's not in this document, I have no idea. Kid Corollas, that's a complicated question. I don't know. Don't know the answer off the top of my head. Let me get through this though. This video is starting to get really long, and I want to focus on some of this, because I think, like, to be brutally honest, I'm not on anyone's side in this case, but I think Mars Argo has a claim in here for the copyright infringement. I'm not even to the domestic stuff yet. I think she has a claim in here for the copyright. It's not as big as she wants it to be. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe she wants a piece of all of what they've built, and maybe she feels she's entitled to it. It's not like a greed thing. I'm not accusing her of that. Maybe she feels entitled to all that. Maybe she is. But her good claim is in very specific things that are copied and that are not necessarily derivative. This one, hammer it. Make Titanic make the argument that his prior Doritos video is where they got this idea. Make him argue it. Okay. Notably, the name of the original Mars Argo project on its YouTube channel was The Computer Show. Poppy's debut album and tour were entitled Poppy.Computer. So these are not copy infringement. Not even close. They're not trademark infringement. They're different products. One is a YouTube channel and the other is an album and tour. It just can't be. Taken together. This language, despite the intent, this language kills the complaint. In my opinion, this language kills the complaint. You have to take all of this together because individually the claims are too weak. No, not how I would draft this complaint. Focus on what's strong, and that Doritos video is where you start with me. Put that out there. If you want to include some of the other stuff, I guess include it. This is probably a good one. Maybe. But it looks like this is a video and this is a still. I don't know. Depends what the still is used for. It doesn't matter. Start with the video. Spend pages on it. really talk about how close they are together, what they're trying to accomplish artistically, how similar they are. Just hammer on it. And then put in your weaker stuff. Okay. So taken together, blah, blah, blah. Get rid of that language. And there are many others. Why aren't they in here? Each of these instances, and there are many others. This is your chance. You got to put them in. If they're in here, if they have... Like, a judge is going to say, wait, so you have many other things you claim, but you put your best stuff in the complaint. If you have many other things and it's of this caliber here, you've got a problem. That's what a judge says. So, okay. Copying and stealing her work, content, identity, style, blah, blah, blah. The two projects are so similar. A potential music manager was interested in working with, pulled up the Poppy Lowlife music video during a meeting with Miss Sheets, thinking it was Miss Sheets in the video. This type of stuff happens all the time because producers are salesmen. Okay. And they're not really concerned with the actual details. They're concerned to make you feel like they know enough of the details. And he just made a blip. Oh, yeah, I've seen that video, blah, blah, blah. I've seen your videos. Really love you. You're really great. You're fantastic. Look, I'll show you this one that I was looking at. Lowlife. That's not me. Oh, okay. Sorry. Ugh. A lot of you guys running around. But that's me. Let's see. To add the confusion to fans. Confusion to fans. Brand confusion is a trademark element, not a copyright element. Everybody wants it all. A private video Miss Sheets made as Mars Argo. Without her knowledge or consent. Made for a provocative art event in downtown Detroit. It's never intended to be put online. She filed a privacy complaint via YouTube. Presumably, YouTube took care of that, I guess. I don't know. This could be a copyright infringement on the guy who uploaded it, but he's not a party to the action, and that's a problem here. So what you need to do is assert that he uploaded it on information and belief at the request of Mr. Mixter, blah, 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 blah. Because she has a gun in the video and puts it up to her head, many fans speculated the video showed that she was dead and replaced by Poppy. Mixer, through his friend, purposely posted the video. Okay, so that is in there. Online to link Mars Argo to the Poppy project. Wrongly imply that she chose to end her character. Maybe. This is a tough sell. I get it in the context of who these people are and how they produce art. That's a possibility. But it's a tough sell to a judge, in my opinion. But if YouTube produced a copyright strike and took it down, hey, what remedy are you asking from the court here? What remedy are you asking from the court? They're not preventing you from monetizing that video and posting it yourself. So I don't know. This is the problem. It's no longer there. YouTube's copyright took care of it. They're no longer infringing. You'd have to assert that they actually cost you an actual opportunity, or they made money off of it that they shouldn't have made, and that you're entitled to that. I mean, I think she has a claim for infringement here, but it's worded in a weird way that doesn't focus on the infringement. Focuses on like this greater scene. I don't know. I don't think Mars is going to win. I don't think Mars is going to win either, personally. Which is a shame, because some of the stuff is probably legit. But I don't know. Since the non-consensual release of Everybody Wants It All, further informed and believes that Mixter and Miss Pereira purposely have used the disappearance of Mars Argo to benefit by making subtle references to her and Poppy projects. Subtle references are not copyright infringement. Period. Anything related to a subtle reference, get it out. Get it out. This is distracting. A clerk and a judge have to read through this, and you have to keep their attention, and this isn't interesting to them. To me. Again, this is my opinion, guys. My opinion. This other lawyer clearly has a different opinion. Part of what has made Poppy so successful is the mystery surrounding her. The mystery would not be possible without Mars Argo's disappearance. Okay. They opportunistically created a character. That's okay. They can do that. Carbon copies of each other. Again, this is brand confusion. Vice published an article about Poppy in which the reporter commented that it seems that Zoe's Poppy's character is directly based on the character Mars Argo. That doesn't mean it is. It can just seem that way. I would not include this. This is a third-party statement, by the way. This could be objected to as hearsay. The third party would have to come in and make this statement. So here we go. Here's again these pictures. I see what they're trying to do. I disagree. Framing is different. Here, Poppy's head's out of the shot. Her feet are out of the shot. She's sitting properly. She's got a dress with flowers on. It's a one-piece thing. Mars Argo, sitting with her knees up. It's more playful and cutesy. Look at Poppy's expression is more serious or something. Her expression is playful and cutesy. She's got a hat. She's looking off into the distance rather than looking at the frame. She's sitting on the opposite side of the chair even. Her feet are in the frame. Her whole head is in the frame. The chair is completely different. It's just old. People sit in old chairs and take pictures. You can't own that. Is she mentioning the subtle references as part of an alleged sinister plan of abuse? Maybe, but because, again, their complaint is discombobulated as to what is being alleged where, we don't know. Motherboard, striking resemblance. These quotes, I would take all of them out. All of them out. If you want to talk about it, just say, several prominent publications have published statements indicating that Poppy appears to be a copy of Mars Argo in their various forms. Attach them as exhibits. Get it out of the complaint. This clutters the whole thing. Certainly not hard to see the similarities between the two musical projects. Similarities aren't infringement. So this is like Transformers suing Thundercats or any generic 80s shows for being the same concept. How dare you, sir? Or ma'am. How dare you suggest that Transformers and Thundercats are generic 80s shows? Panthro's coming, buddy. Panthro is coming. With the nunchucks and you're toast. Okay. Instagram. That Argo Sinclair. Similarly, Lynx, Titanic Sinclair, Mars Argo, Poppy. Great. Great. Let's see. Sheets expect that Mr. will claim he was creative force behind Mars Argo, that she was not a joint contributor. See, this is a problem too. Ms. Sheets expects that Mr. Mixter will claim that he was the creative force behind Mars Argo or that she was not a joint contributor. Word it this way. Mr. Mixter will claim that he was the creative force behind Mars Argo or that he was a joint contributor. Not she was not. She should not be a joint contributor. She should own it. She should be the sole creator. She should take his ideas and add them to her creation as he willfully gives ideas in furtherance of the project or something like that. Again, with an opportunity to claim ownership and again with a passive voice. Not good. Not good. Spot check if this was well constructed. What do you think a reasonable demand? Couple thousand? I think way more than that. I think 5 to 6 figures at least based on the success of the videos. I mean, these people, Poppy puts out a video on whatever and gets 2 million views. that's money. That's money. I think tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they'd have to find out how much it's worth. I think they could certainly allege safely $100,000 to $200,000 in damages. Okay, so this video, again, here's a consistency problem with this whole thing. Mars Argo. Shot of Mr. Mixer in 2010. Okay. For example, on the left is a photograph that Miss Sheets styled, composed, and shot of Mr. Mixer in 2010. On the right is a photograph of Poppy in which Poppy is shot and composed in the same manner. This is well written. Why isn't every other photo that she's alleging written like this? She styled, composed, and shot this picture. So the other photos that include her, so she couldn't take the picture as easily. She styled, composed, and directed the picture to be shot in this manner. Give her ownership of this stuff. This one is bad. Bad comparison. Again, we've talked about this before. I'm not going to harp on this. But these are postmodern aesthetics that existed before these people were born. Long before I was born. And I'm older than them. So we're talking, these go back decades, these types of aesthetics, and they just can't own them. Not in that way. Shot and styled photographs such as the one below that Mixter contends to use on the website to this day. Yeah. This looks like, if I glance at it, this looks like a Nirvana picture of Kurt Cobain. Isn't there actually a picture of Kurt Cobain that looks really similar to this? Now I got to do it. Whoops. I'm going to find it, guys. Where is it? Where is it? I'm going to find it. I'm going to spend like 30 more seconds looking for it, and then I'm going to unfind. I'm not going to bother anymore, and you'll just have to take my word for it. I'm pretty sure I've seen a picture of Kurt Cobain in that same look. But that's me. I don't know. You guys can disagree if you want, or you can agree. It's up to you. But that just looks like Kurt Cobain to me. Also, she confused the left and the right with the white suits and put the wrong title to the Poppy video they pictured. Oh, low life. Okay, sure. Queen of not watching Poppy and not knowing the titles. To be fair, Kurt Cobain looked like that a lot. Kind of part of the grunge thing. Exactly. Exactly. And if you're borrowing imagery from a genre, it's hard to say you own it. So, and I'm not saying that, you know, like Titanic Sinclair can just say, yeah, I styled this on all sorts of pictures I saw of people I grew up with, like Kurt Cobain or whatever. All right, let's go back real quick to this final subheading. So we have 3 subheadings, guys. Look at this subheading. As Poppy grows in popularity, numerous fans and commentators note substantial similarities to Mars Argo. But how long does it take to get to those substantial similarities? That was on... What if they were both on heroin at the time? That's a good question. So page 18, the bottom of page 18 is the beginning of this section. Where do we get to the comments on similarities? Here. Page 26. Page 26, it's 8 pages. 8 pages later, they get to the point of the subheading. This is the problem. Make more subheadings, make them specific, work on the order, tell the story. Tell the story, tell the story, tell the story. It's the biggest problem with this entire complaint. Like the nitpicky stuff about me having problems with some of the evidence they use, sure, fine, that's great. The real problem is that they don't have a narrative that's compelling. The story of this case is not one that wins, in my opinion. Seriously, would either side want to mention that? Oh, the both being on heroin? I thought that was just a joke about Kurt Cobain being on heroin. If they were both on heroin at the time, I mean, they can mention it probably safely, honestly, in civil court years ago. What, they're going to get arrested? I don't know. It's probably okay, but that seems like more of a defense for Mixer. No, we were both on heroin. We were throwing out ideas. It's really hard to tell who was doing, who had come up with it first because we were just riffing off each other, that sort of thing. Okay. How is this not a major clue that this is art? It might be art. Like I said, they hired really expensive people, or Mars Argo hired really expensive people for her art. Spertus, Landis, and Umhofer are not lightweights. Not lightweights at all. DFW Knights. So hopefully I've answered your question. I think it'd be safe to answer it. I don't know that Mars Argo would want to state that. I think Mars Argo wants to soberly control all of the creation that she's done. And I don't think they've done a good job of establishing that. And if I'm writing the complaint, I'm reminding the judge every logical opportunity that my client created this and they have taken it from her, and that is not legal. Every opportunity, every single chance, never passive, never this was a creation of no, my client created. Mars Argo created. Brittany Sheets created this character. Brittany Sheets picked this wardrobe. Brittany Sheets framed this shot. Brittany Sheets' photography is an integral part of her art and expressive attitude, and she was the visual director of the entire project, and she framed all of these shots. Put it out there. Own it, own it, own it, own it, own it. I can't express it enough. This is a complaint, and she believes she owns it, so own it. So do it. Do it. I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too. By the way, since we're talking about heroin and celebrities, I always have to give a little respect to my man. And my man is Scott Weiland. Scott Weiland, the lead singer of Stone Temple Pilots, of course. And I'm going to have just a tiny nip of Jameson for him. Even though he was, trying to be sober. And so I don't know if having Jameson is the best respect, but I miss him. I miss Stone Temple Pilots' work. When Poppy made subtle references to Mars Argo, she was ripping off Taylor Swift's subtle invitations to Russell Greer. Okay. So I'm not going to go through the cause of action. This stuff is all fine. It's the narrative. Let me rein it back in here because I'm having too much fun, and too much fun is never legal. Oh, I didn't even take a sip of this. It's the narrative. They failed at the narrative. They needed to. I don't know if they can fix this. They needed to give Mars Argo the ownership that she claims to have. They need to honor that ownership and let the court know who owns it at every opportunity. And to do it in the specific evidence that they're providing. Mars Argo did this. She created this. She built this. She framed this. She picked this out. She put this together. Everything. Everything. Titanic Sinclair helped produce things. He helped produce the content. He was a foil. He was a character in the Mars Argo project. He was there as a counterbalance to the Mars Argo characters. He helped us reach bigger brands. Sure, acknowledge his contribution. Don't give him ownership. Take it for yourself. Make him fight it. Make him fight it. Because if you don't do that, you don't have the case. If the Mars Argo LLC owns this, then that's who's supposed to be creating to be bringing the lawsuit. And there's a problem with that because it looks like she's a co-equal owner with Titanic Sinclair, and unless they've properly dissolved the corporation with an agreement or sale, they're still co-equal owners. And that, if I'm Titanic and Sinclair, I'm raising that as a defense, assuming it's still active. I'm raising it immediately. Okay. All right, guys. The video is getting long. We're at 3 hours. I didn't think it was going to be this long, but that's how live streams go. And I apologize if it is too long for you, but that's how it works. If I'm making the arguments for Mars Argo, in summary, I'm picking one of the two narratives. So you notice, like, when you get to the end of the document, what's the domestic abuse evidence that we have? Do you remember it? Is it readily accessible in your brain? Why not? Why not? Why is the domestic violence stuff not clearly articulated? It's because they wove it into the front of the document and then it trails off. It's very weirdly done. It needs to be intentional. Domestic abuse, copyright, or copyright, domestic abuse. Separate them, put more subheadings in, break it up, give us easy reference points to go back and say, oh yeah, I want to read about the domestic abuse during the relationship. I want to read about domestic abuse after the relationship. I want to read about copyrights involving Poppy. I want to read about copyrights involving the music or involving the lighting and overall aesthetic, or going to the school that taught Japanese or whatever. Like, that's kind of in the domestic abuse sort of thing. They need to really clarify these sections, and that's what I would try and do in this case, because this is a big case and this costs a ton of money. I have to put that out there. Like, look at this document and assume that the person who wrote it got paid $4,000 minimum for this 40-page document. Say they got paid. Okay, we'll pick $5,000 for an easy reference. So you paid $5,000 for this document. Is this a $5,000 document? No. It's not. And it should be. It should be worth the $5,000 you're paying for it. I don't know if it costs $5,000. This is a very, very prominent law firm in Los Angeles. I have to assume they charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars per hour, probably close to $1,000 an hour. And this document took some time to write and put together. So if you're paying $5,000, are you satisfied with this? Why are you, if you are? And if you're not, why aren't you? And look at the things. And it's the story, man. They don't sell it. Things need to be strategically placed in line with these complaints. And you can change the order of these complaints in whatever way you want. You can put the domestic violence first. I think you maybe do. That's what they want to focus on. They want to hammer on the fact that this guy's been abusive and horrible, and through that abuse, use that to steal her ideas and intimidate her into silence. Much better narrative. Very crisp. Start with it. Hit the abuse, hit it hard, and just slam it over and over and over, and then say, he took this from Mars Argo. He took it, and that should come later. It needs to be more clearly delineated, needs to be better subheading titles, and that's how I would do it. So I hope this has been something like what you're looking for. I know the video is a long time coming. It's hard for me to do the arguments because I'm not like deeply versed in the lore of either of these people. I've not watched all their videos. I'm not going to. I just don't have time to do that. But I hope this helps you kind of understand how you can frame this stuff. Their evidence isn't great, but it's not the worst evidence ever. But the narrative doesn't sell it for me. So I wrote a 300-page book and make like $1,000 tops. I should consider law. Yeah, you should. Honestly, when I got into law school, I was like, yeah, my grades were terrible in undergrad because I was going to be a writer. And writers don't need grades. Writers just need to write. So my grades are bad. And they said, oh, you can write? That's what we can't teach people how to do. So if you can write and you want to do law, there's a law school waiting to take your money. Jesse Hula Hoops McGee says, see you in church. Alexis B. They go back to court August 22nd. Yes, and we covered this at the beginning of the video. They go back to court. That's Brittany Sheets versus Corey Mixter. Their real names. Brittany Sheets versus Corey Mixter for the domestic abuse restraining order. That's it. Has nothing to do with this case. As for when they go to court in this case, no idea. They haven't even been served yet. And that's a big problem because we're past the 90 day, or we're going to probably pass the 90 days on Monday. And so they'll need to file proof of service or the action could be dismissed and they'll have to refile. So, good morning, Mr. Raggets. Am I on time? No, you're right at the end, pal. Right at the end. I had a good friend go to Duke Law. He got a job in Palo Alto and works 80 hours per week, and I haven't talked to him in 5 years. Depends what kind of lawyer you want to be, man. I work way, way less than that. I'm very comfortable with it. My schedule is completely open, and my business comes at the pace that I need it to come at so I can spend lots of time with my family. So it all depends on what you want to do and what resources you have to do it. You know, not everybody can do things the way I do them, and there are benefits and downsides to that. I live in a small town with a very small cost of living, and that helps quite a bit. Okay. Poppy doesn't have to go to court on this lawsuit until she's served. There has been no hearings in this lawsuit. The only hearings have occurred between Brittany Sheets and Corey Mixter on the domestic abuse restraining order, which is completely separate from this action. I can't be clear enough on that because people seem to be conflating the two. Those are separate actions. They will have no bearing officially on the outcome of this case. If Sheets can get a restraining order against Mixter, it could be helpful in some of her domestic violence charges in the argument that they were happening because we have a different court recognizing that the domestic abuse was occurring. It can be helpful, but it's not authoritative and it won't have a bearing on the outcome of this case in a specific legal context, only in persuasive context. So, all right, guys, 3 hours and 10 minutes. I think we're good. Thank you so much for joining me. Of course, if you have any further questions on this topic, please hit me up on some sort of social media and ask. Feel free. I'm happy to answer them as I can. Again, I hope this is what you're looking for. I'm trying not to be too negative to Mars Argo, but the case they've presented is not good. It should be better. If you work with Spertus Landis and Umhofer LLP and you wrote this and you want to consult me on writing a better complaint and you don't want to just straight up murder me, Matthew Donald Umhofer, give me a call. I'll gladly work in an advisory capacity. But anyway, so yeah, I think they need to produce more evidence and focus more specifically on the evidence and focus really on their narrative construction of the document and order it better so that it's clear on what sections are talking about what, so that the clerk and the judge, when reading it, can easily go back and reference what they're looking for. Am I looking for information about an abuse or copyright thing? If I'm looking for abuse, I go to this section. If I'm looking for copyright, I go to this section. You know, it helps. It helps. But thank you so much for watching. Of course, if you like this, share it around. I don't have the biggest reach in the Poppy crowd or anything, or the Mars Argo crowd. So, and I think a lot of Mars Argo people might hate me because of my first video, because they think that I've chosen a side. I haven't chosen a side. I've just given my opinion on what I think the complaint is, and I don't think this is well written. So please feel free to share it. Get people to come yell at me. As we get case developments, I would love to do more content on Poppy and Mars Argo. I'm fascinated by it, even though I'm not particular fans of either one. The whole thing is very interesting to me. I love art. I love creativity. I love free speech. And I, you know, and I also want people's content and creations to be protected. So, you know, I want more to happen with this case, but we're at the mercy of the parties here. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I gotta stop this video, cause I'm dying. I've had a long day. Oh no, I haven't even talked about my garbage day. With regards to practice here in Minnesota, and how frustrating it is dealing with police and courts when you're trying to rescue a kidnapped child. But maybe this isn't the proper place for it. So look for that coming up in the future, and maybe I'll have a better update next week. I would love to tell this story. I would love to, because it's instructive on how frustrating everything is. But I think I should wait until the story is a little more developed. Anyways, love you all. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to blank out the screen, and I'm going to go eat something and then lay down and go to sleep. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.